Ko ia tērā te tautoko, tērā hapori, i te wā o te Uripari Gabriel. Ana mai hapai i tōna rohenga o te whanganui a Orotu. Nō reira, me tangi ka tika, ki ai au tira ngā mate katoa kei wainganui a tātou. Kua nui, hoi no. Tātou kua mene ki te pō kia koutou haere. Haere hoki atu kia rātou nunumi mā, roroa mā rātou, kua ngaro nei a tātou. Nō rei ngā mate haere, whakangaro atura. Rātou kia tātou te hunga ora. Tātou kua kainakau ki ngā kaupapa tōranga pū, ki ngā kaupapa whakapiki te oranga o te iwi Māori. Te tai ao, e rā kaupapa katoa, e mihi atu nei kia tātou. He nui ngā whakamātautau kei mui a tātou. Koko eke nei ki te paunga o tēnei tau, kei te kite atu tēnei kāwanatanga, kei te whakamātautau toni ia mātou i a tātou, te iwi Māori. Nō reira, kia kaha kia maia, kia manawa nui, i tā tātou nei tohe, tā tātou nei whawhai. Ai, te hui a motu i Kaitahu, ka tai anō ka mutu, te rā wiki, i raupi tia nei e kahungunu, me ona piringa, te National Iwi Chairs Forum, i here taunga. Nō reira, wari utukau mā rima ngā iwi, i tai mai, me te pai o tērā kaupapa hoi no, ko ki tēnei mātou, te hia o tēnei kāwanatanga, ki te uru atu tērā o ngā pire, nanakia. Ki roto i te paremata, kia moata, wārata nei mahi, kia āhua triki, i a mātou te iwi Māori. Ka tai te mahi hianga ko tērā. Hoi no. Kia tātou. Kia tātou, tēnei wā. Hoi no. Ko tā, he hea tēnei te kauwhau kōrero, ko tāku no he whakatau nei a tātou. Nō reira, tēnei te mihi, kia tātou ko haere mai nei tēnei rā. Hoi no, tā tātou nei himene, whakatūwhera, anei. E hono. Kia tu. Tātua he mangarong ki te whenua e whakaaro pai ki ngā tāngata katoa. Tātua kaharoa tēnei mātou te komiti Māori, o te kaunihera arohe o te mataua Māui. E mihi atu nei kia koe tēnei ata. Tukuna mai tō wairua ki wainganui a tātu. Hei arataki a mata nei mahi, ka tutuki pai ngā wawata a kui mā koroma i ngā marae maha. Huri noa. Nō reira whakakahingia ia mātou, me ngā mātou tau katoa, kei muia tātou tiwi Māori tēnei wā. Nō reira e pā tēnei te mātou ino kia koe mau e whakamana mau anō e whakatūwhera i runga i tingo tapu. Oi Christ o matakai whakaora. Āmene.
Āmene, kia ora.
Kia ora.
Just some housekeeping before we start. Is just, you know, with the emergency doors here, over here to your right. There's 2 chances to get out that door. Otherwise, through those double doors and out the front door. So safe journeys on your way out should any incident happen. Okay, and then we're going to turn around and take apologies for this morning.
One apology from Anna Tawhaiti that she will be late. She's hoping to get here around about 11:30.
Anna Tawhaiti.
Tina, apologies from our chair.
Yes, thank you. Apologies from our chair today, from Hinewai.
And apologies from CEO Dr. Nick Peck.
And also from Dr. Nick Pete. Are there any others?
Happy to move, Madam Chair.
Thank you, Mike, and seconder.
Second.
Thank you, Paul. All of those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Kia ora, carried. Okay, looking at conflicts of interest or any declarations of interest, any new committees you may be on, businesses, please declare.
I'll just move because it might come up in the minor items in regards to Kaitiaki Pest Management Services, because we work in the pest management space, and I think we had a bit on minor items from contractual stuff and pest management, so I'll declare that now. Thank you.
New declaration for me on the board of the PAB Trek East Coast.
True.
You know, that's the roading
Thank you, Baden. Yes.
and infrastructure.
Mr. Potter, talk to you.
Baden Trek. Anybody else in our committee? Awesome. So, do you have to move vote? Do I have to move those?
No.
All right, we're looking at the alternative member appointments today.
Just one for Anna Tawhaiti for Mātua Tāmi Hilton.
Yes.
She'll be our alternate for Head of Tone when she gets here. If she gets here.
For our Matua Harami Hilton. Be appointed, blah, 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 blah. Is that also requiring a...
Still need the recommendations there on your run sheet. Happy to move the recommendation.
So, this recommendation for alternate member appointment today.
Yeah, I'll second that.
Anna moved by
Peter.
Mike and second by Peter Eden. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, carried. Okay, moving to the call for minor items, not already on the agenda.
Did we take a list from this?
And we
morning?
took a list this morning, and this list has been, we're looking at review of the procurement policy, looking at measurements that weren't measurements in the IPMO. Also, looking at the big water storage security, also relationship between the Māori electoral system, treaty principles, local government, Māori will lead that, and also an update on the Upper Mohaka collective engagement about pollution downstream pest management there, and also the Kaitiaki pest management for Mohaka. So those are the recommendations that are not on the agenda already. Just stated. Any others?
Are there any others?
Are there any others?
Minor items?
Any other minor items? Paul?
Yes. Could we please get some coordination going on the email for these pre-meetings? There's nothing in my email that said there's a pre-meeting before this one at 11 o'clock.
Point taken, point taken. So that's the email for the pre-meeting, starting at 10 a.m. for our members. They only get the 11 a.m. notice. If they could also get the pre-meeting for the Māori committee. And I guess for minor items from, I'd like to put on the table, I didn't discuss before, it's just an update on the Waira River.
Yes.
Around the around the humongous mahi that's going on around the options that are put out to the tangata whenua.
Put that down.
So just so you know, yeah, looking at the options around the flooding models. So would you like to move that, Mike?
Diane might move that.
Certainly.
Oh, thank you, Di, and seconded by
Happy.
Kia ora, Api. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Those are all your minor items for today. And we're going to touch wood today. For the first time in history, we're going to have the take ripuatas takiwa. And let's go to the left. Oh, okay, let's go to the right. We'll take Te Whanganui. We'll take Api. Verbals. We'll take any verbals today from our takiwa representatives for the Tai Whenua. Kia ora.
It's Mary Ora tātou. Ko te mi tuatahi. Kanu te mi, kanu te aroa kia koutou katoa ko hui mai nei. Tēnā koe Baden mo tō karakia kia mātou i tēnei ata. Kia ora te tuakana taranga hau. Tēnā koe mo tō mahi tautoko ki ngā kaimahi o tēnei rohe o te kaunihera. Tuku maha ngā tangata o konei taunihera kei te ako te reo Māori. Ai, whātukau mā ono o ngā kaimahi o tēnei kaunihera. So, ka nui te mihi kia koe, taranga hau. Mō tēnei mahi whakahera, kia mātou, kia tātou katoa. Reira, ka nui te mihi kia koutou. Now, just a verbal report anyway, from myself and Peter. One thing that was quite intriguing, I suppose, just to the end of September there, and I want to acknowledge our Niki reps, especially Shade and Ngaio, who took us down to our river at the back of Kōpātiki. And there was a large group of us, at least 24, and they came from Mangaro, from Waiheke, and right over at Pētani, a good muster of our whānau. And what we were doing was river testing. So all this new equipment that was that Ngaio and Shade brought along, they were showing us how to use this equipment. Quite expensive stuff also. And the what we got from it was how we could test the quality of the water, the rise in temperature, especially from the discharge from those local wool scows around Whakatū there, and how detrimental that rise in temperature can, the damage it can cause to the fish life and to the ecosystem. And so that was an eye-opener. That was an eye-opener for us. So I'm really very pleased that that's iwi initiated, for our Niki board. So very good, Baden, with what our kaimahi are doing over there. And so, so I suppose, where am I going with this? it's wonderful that our own iwi have taken the initiative to do this kind of stuff. So where's the backup from our council, I suppose, is what I'm asking. Where's the backup? And for us to be involved in that on that particular day, but actually it didn't just go for the one day, it went for several days because they were moving around to different rivers and waterways, which was very important. And so that's the main part of my briefing this morning, so kia ora.
Yeah, just a couple of points, and apologies for the written report. At the moment I'm working in the taio with our rangatahi, so no coverage. So, but it's brought me in connect with, obviously, with our water catchments and obviously with tūwhari tō, because we're working up in the Rohi in regards to a number of projects, fuel and protection and all that, and hence one of the minor items, because obviously now that I'm connecting with our tūwhari tō rohi that comes into regional council, it just gives them insight into what they're saying. And just adding to what Api said, because obviously there was a report done in the water monitoring. I suppose the important part for Hahurere is the monitor didn't show good results, obviously, around the pollution and that. So I know we're working on that, work in progress, but yeah, to again alarm us to the water quality, and then I think we've raised it on a number of occasions, and we're talking whānau and telling them not to gather kaimoana. Hey, hard conversation to have with those whānau when you were saying the quality of the water and it's detrimental to their health. So I suppose that's what Api was talking about, just around that monitoring. It's sad to see that happening in our current environment, and obviously looking for improvement as we move forward into the future. In regards to that, because I think we all want our kids to be able to swim and gather kaimoana down in Ahurere, and then when we read those results, it's sobering, when you look at it and think, what do we need to do to improve that? So, ngā mihi, looking forward to today's meeting. As discussed, a lot of changes, just trying to get your head for the legislation and everything that's going on. There's just so much happening in this space, changes to regional council, so a lot happening. So I know the council staff are all busy trying to make sure to get their heads around that as well. But if you think of ourselves on the outside, so is everyone else around government policy and that. So looking forward to today's conversation. Kia ora.
Kia ora, Ngāti Kere, Paura.
Kia ora no tātou komiti Māori. My one talk is concern at home about the being the first of the flood areas to be asked for an MOU or to have an MOU. And our planners want to have asked, is the MOU a general one for all over, or will it apply for everyone instead of just one here, one there and one everywhere? And the other major ask is for regional council plans, if they're effective in your area. And right now they are effective in Porangahau around the putting the stop banks up and where they're going to go and what effect they will have on the marae, and more especially the Kaumātua flats, which are still ineffective and pretty much the same as the flood affected them. But generally, Porangahau is in good shape. The flood has had quite a uplifting effect in terms of the community getting together and working together. A lot of mamai amongst the people that actually got flooded out, but most of the houses are livable, and the only major mamai, of course, is our Kaumātua flats, is switches. And I'm of major concern because my sister's in my house. And I want my house. So I've got a fairly heavy drive going on, getting the Kaumātua flats back up and running, to have a little bit of change. Not at, and one other thing, I went to the hui that was held for all the tribes down in Tuahiwi Marae. And I have to say, I come out of there thinking that Māori is going to look at ways of driving their own waka. And I took all that, and I'm all in favour. But tēnā koutou, that's it for me. The other thing is I'm very happy with Tamatea Tai Whenua. It's working away, and it's done wonderful things. We're now becoming quite professional in a whole range of things for the rohe or tamati. Great faith in our tai whenua going forward. Kia ora.
Just a part-time, Madam Chair. This is for operations, so just in regards to the MOUs. So are these the first MOUs, or are these the first MOUs in regards to our Māori communities that were being affected by the cyclone?
Through you, Chair.
Yes.
These MOUs have been arranged with Marae and Hapu engaged specifically at place with the projects within the Niwi program of work, so within the North Island Weather Events Flood Resilience program of work, so across the OIC areas.
So have non-Māori communities, do they have MOUs?
No.
Okay.
And just a point of clarification on that, so are those flood-affected maraes that are going to all have MOUs, or is it, is it across the board? I just trying to get my head around it.
Through you, Chair, I can follow up with the officers responsible and get an update to this committee in writing, just so that it is clear where the arrangements are. There was an update in the last Māori committee meeting about the parties who have been involved in each of those flood projects. And Pitani Marae is one for Whirinaki and Porangahau. There is a conversation between Rongo Marairo, Marae, Ngāti Kere Authority and the Māori committee as well. But just to ensure that I'm clear and accurate with all of the parties, I can follow that up in writing. Okay.
Yeah, and I suppose just as a reference point, because obviously I chair Mōtio Marae, and we're flood affected and we're still rebuilding now, and then to come up in our AGM, around support from Hawke Regional Council, and then what part were they playing? So table that since it's come up in the conversation, and if MOU's been done, then for flood affected marae or communities, then the expectation would be that would roll out to all our marae that were flooded or were impacted by the cyclone. I'm just saying I don't know the base, the fundamentals around it. Yeah, thank you.
And just to follow on from that, is there a paper trail back to the iwi, back to our tai whenua? I mean, or are you just looking at the individual MOUs of each marae?
It was provided to this committee in the last meeting, so the papers are public papers attached to the last Māori committee meeting, outlining who those relationships are with for the purpose of the Niwi Flood Resilience Program. So there are bigger conversations and wider conversations that continue around flood resilience within Te Matua Māori. This was an update on the Niwi Flood Resilience Program.
So just one more through you, Madam Chair. So I suppose the real question for our communities is it the squeaky wheel that gets the oil? Or is there a consistency throughout these MOUs?
Point taken.
That was the question. Is there a consistency amongst the MOUs?
Yeah.
Is the question.
For the Niwi Flood Resilience Program, yes.
Yeah, okay. Okay,
So we'd take that as an action point and then break that? Yeah, that'd be fair to say, yeah.
What te tō kōrero? Okay.
Ka pai, Madam Chair.
Enare?
Just a thank you to the governance team for accepting my late report. The only issue I want to bring up about my report is that these wānanga that were put through, I think our Rakai Park have been doing wānanga ever since the settlement. And then I know this Nathan in his report kind of makes mention of it, of how difficult it is now to draw any enthusiasm from the local people with all these wānanga. To understand the importance of the wānanga, understand the great work the facilitators are doing, but nonetheless, it is getting where we are feeling somewhat jaded when the people continue to talk about aspirations, ambitions, values, and to ensure that we get these different relationships in there. It's I know the facilitators must have had a difficult time drawing it out of us, but it's I think we're just a bit hoo-ha with all the wānanga we have to go through, although we do understand their importance and significance. That's the only thing I wanted to bring up in relation to my report. Thank you, Madam Chair.
You're welcome.
Tēnā koe tia mana, kouta rā, ngā whanaunga, rangatira, mihi atu kia kouta. My part of the Tomatea report is to just to discuss something very briefly about Lake Whaituma. And it's a subject that I've brought up with various officers of the council at different times, but realised that we've not done an overview of the whole thing, so I'll take this opportunity to give you a short overview of it. And we have a 2-minute video there that's on there, which I'll get. So for those of you who didn't know, just out of Waipukurau there's a lake. And you may not have known that, but that lake has been there. And that lake is what provided our tupuna with tuna and things, mairano. And it's the reason that they settled in that area. So all of our whakapapa history is built around that lake. In 1852, as you're probably aware, was the Waipukurau purchase, and progressively we've lost contact with that lake. In 2018, the Tomatea Heretaunga settlement gave us back the 100 hectares, which was called the Lake Whaituma Reserve. And that came back to us, and it came back under our Tomatea Pōkai Whenua and Aorangi Māori Trust Board. Those two boards appointed a management group, which I chair. And we came into being in 2020, just after the lockdown. So I'll just show you this 2-minute clip and I'll just explain a couple of things afterwards.
Bear with me while I share my screen.
Whaituma.
I hope the sound works.
Can you? Can we see it more fully?
Yep.
Waipukurau is one of the largest lowland lakes in Hawke's Bay. It was once a thriving mahinga kai, but it has been seriously degraded since the 1950s. Māori Pōkai Whenua, in partnership with the Aorangi Māori Trust Board, has established the Whaituma Management Group to help restore the lake and preserve the wetland. Since 2020, the Whaituma Management Group has begun restoring over 100 hectares of riparian wetland, removing pest species and planting over 16,000 native plants. We work with schools and volunteer groups on this kaupapa to reconnect the community
Thank you. So since 2020, we've started on this. We've had this extensive planting program, and we're in the middle of fundraising exercise. So we've raised just over 400K so far, and started work on the nursery and the driveway and the clean-up side of things. And so the next 4 or 5 years we'll be pursuing funding to complete what you just saw in the video. So if you hear about Whātua, then that's what it is, and everybody's welcome to come and participate in anything we do. Kia ora.
Tō te maka. Tai, tēnā koe.
Kia ora tātou. I have got a water update from Tamatea. So last Thursday was the completion of the Tranche 2 environmental court hearing for the water take from the Ruataniwha aquifer. So last Thursday we managed to host environmental court in Waipawa, where we had 6 hapu members from Tamatea giving their cultural evidence in court against the application of the water extraction, and supported by Ngāti Kahungunu with Shade giving evidence also. So it was a tedious exercise. That's been an application with Regional Council here for 10 years, but 2 years in environmental court process. It's stressful, it's expensive, and it's time wasting when we have to present ourselves in an environmental court situation when there's unfortunately a water take that appears inside the regional resource management plan as an allowable take. So the completion of that environmental court hearing will be completed this week with the final submissions from lawyers. But yeah, anything that we've learnt from that is that it's all about relationships from the outset of an application, and if that had been solidified at the outset, we probably wouldn't have gone down this road that we've ended. So yeah, hopefully we come out with a positive outcome for hapu in Tamatea. The second one, we've got the Managed Aquifer Recharge project that's still on our radar, where it's been rescoped. So we're going back for another visit this Saturday with some rescoping of the project. For those that don't know, Managed Aquifer Recharge is about taking water at high volume, winter water, and storing it to recharge groundwater. So this is actually a project, it's a trial project to see if this does work and recharge some groundwater in and off the Waipawa River. So we're quite excited about being part of a trial project. The third is the Tukitoki Water Security Project. So that is currently in the headlines. Presently, it has been at Central Hawke's Bay District Council with the forming of a community trust with Water Holdings Hawke's Bay Limited, who now own the IP and the resource consents that were purchased from Regional Council from here, from HBRIC. So that IP and those resource consents are going to be placed currently into a community trust. Central Hawke's Bay District Council have voted to elect a council member onto that community trust, and currently there are 2 positions that are being made available for Tamatea Pōkai Whenua to hold 2 positions in the community trust. So the Tai Whenua are working with Tamatea Pōkai Whenua about how we will navigate our way through placing 2 people into community trust. Both organisations, Te Tai Whenua o Tamatea and Tamatea Pōkai Whenua, do not have a position on the dam as such, and that is problematic because we don't know what we want, who we want, how we want it. but we can, at this precise point of time, saying we do not have a position, we do not support, we do not vote in, against, or support it either way. So it's very early days presently for us on a long journey. However, the early days in a long journey has been shortened because the Tuki water security is one of the projects that's included into the fast track schedule. So I think from memory there's 5 here in Hawke's Bay, 5 or 6. Tuki is one of those fast track projects, with a very likelihood that fast track legislation will go through by the end of year. Those are the signals that we're getting from Wellington, that this fast track approvals bill will come into effect. What does that do for this security project, just Tuki water security project? As it says, it fast tracks it really, really fast. For those that don't know what the RMA processes are, it fast tracks everything. It circumnavigates a lot of protection mechanisms that we had in an RMA space. So now it circumnavigates that and fast tracks it pretty quick. So for us, it's how do we participate and keep our eyes and ears on that fast track process. So is this a with or without us? Hence, we are in discussions about how do we navigate this fast track and this RMA reform in front of us, which sort of lends into my...
Just a part-tie there before,
Susan.
sorry,
Sure.
through you, Madam Chair. So if I've heard you correctly, it is an opportunity for mana whenua to be on the ground floor for those wider discussions, whereas in the past we have been on the outside and others have had those discussions and made decisions. And at the conclusion of those decisions, they want to then come and engage with mana whenua. So my understanding of what I've just heard there is that we are at this point in time through Tamatea Pōkai Whenua in at that initial, if you like, ground floor, having those discussions. And I do take the point you made that Tamatea Pōkai Whenua is at this point taking a neutral stance until they understand the full implications of what has been proposed in the outcomes, the pros and cons. Is that my understanding?
Yes,
Have I got that? Thank
yes,
you very
absolutely.
much.
So we've been given the opportunity of the Tai Whenua to work with Tamatea Pōkai Whenua to understand that community trust and how do we participate. So that opportunity has been given to have 2 seats inside the community trust.
Can I have a supplementary question to that? And this is to council staff. I understand that regional council is now having discussions in regards to the head-of-toner storage, a proposed head-of-toner storage, Ngarororo storage scheme. I hope that the councils take the point that we are not on the ground floor for these discussions. The outcome, the chance of having a good outcome or a good engagement with mana whenua becomes extremely difficult. Because if all the decisions are made before we get there, quite clearly, we're not going to be interested in having that conversation. The conversation will be, why weren't we involved? So we're starting up having different conversations. So to the councillors, please get mana whenua to the table as quickly as you can. That doesn't mean to say that we're in support or not in support, but we need to be there along with everyone else that are the decision makers. Kia ora tātou.
Thank you, Mike. Which leads me to the big question I have is, in 2003, we had a regional water security assessment report produced with Regional Council in Kanoa, which was the economic development where we got funding. So we have this report here, and if I look at the purpose of this report, one of the things it says, this report is to assist councillors, the Māori Committee and Regional Planning Committee to incorporate regional freshwater security into regional plans and strategies, amongst other purposes of the report. So we fit squarely inside this report, and I guess what I'm trying to say is I'd like to breathe life back into this report, bring it back to the table. We've got this report sitting there and we're doing nothing with it currently. And I don't mean that in an unkind way. But I'd like to bring it back to the table because a lot of money was spent to produce a report. And what I don't like about spending money on reports is that they get put on shelves and collect dust and they don't see the light of day. A large amount of investment was poured into that report. We need to bring it back to light. And we need to start to make some serious discussions, and I know it's difficult, but, you know, water storage, security, water use, intervention, supply, demand, future of water, we all know it, and we all keep just having our little conversations about it, but we're actually not doing anything about it. We're talking about it in our groups, but there is actually no joined up, full-on conversation with all of us together here, iwi hapu, our whānau, our councils, our community. So to fully understand the climate change and the adaptations that we're dealing with, because if we look in Tanawha, we've got MA, it's an adaptation tool. We've got a proposed dam and we've got tranche 2, so we're trying to put water in and we've got people trying to take the water out. So how and when will we all come together to start to have this conversation? Because as Mike rightly pointed, we've got Tuki water security and it's about to come the Heretaunga water security kōrero very shortly, but how are we going to and when are we going to start talking about this in a collective? And I guess that's, I'm going to throw out on the table because we're all talking about it, but we're actually not doing anything about it. Even though we've got a report sitting there telling us everything we need to know. I know we can't answer that question, but we need to address it.
Comment from Councillor Sears?
Oh, kia ora,
Kia ora,
Sophie.
thanks. Di, yeah, look, all the things you're saying are things that we're saying as councillors as well. Of course, the big picture of all those interlocking pieces of water security have to be coordinated at that high level strategy. There certainly are things being done. Absolutely, we're talking about it all the time, but basically your is exactly mine too around the table. So I feel like we're coming to a place where there'll be a sort of new picture of how those pieces are going to work together at that level. So absolutely agree with you. Yeah.
Great. Kia ora, thank you. Thank you.
Kia ora. Who leads it, Di?
No, but,
Why not put it on something now? Why, it's history, 2023.
Yep. Yes,
Big need now.
Yep.
Well, thousands of dollars been spent on talk. Time for action. Who leads it?
Sophie does.
Someone put their hand up.
Regional councils leading it, and I absolutely, I'm acknowledging the conversation. It's exactly the conversation we're having, and a lot of work is being done, and it needs to come back in the right way around all the tables. Totally agree.
Does it need to come to you in a demand?
No, I think we're right there. Will, you might want to comment. I think we're all on the same page of where we're going, for sure. That we need to find the right tables to bring the big and interconnected pieces all together. As Di says, work's going on individual pieces all the time. How do we coordinate them? But Will, you've probably got
through your chair. Look, simple answer is regional council, but Di's right and Sophie's right. There's actually a lot of work going on, but it's all in these separate silos. And Di's right, we have to bring it together because otherwise how does it all fit together? So that strategy piece is missing at the moment. And I think as regional council, it's the obvious choice of leading that discussion, but it involves all parties, whether it be, fellow TAs, this Māori committee and so on. It involves all regional leaders really to be around that table and bring that pitch together.
We can start something now. Di's going to chase you.
Happy to, because it's, as Sophie said, it's the conversation that we want to be having, And look, to be fair, you know, we've all had to retreat to our corners a bit in the last sort of 12 months, 18 months because of what's happened, but it's kind of, now's the time we need to come back together because we've sort of, you know, the air's cleared and we need to be looking forward again.
So as an outcome of this conversation, so this is our last Māori Standing Committee for the year. Perhaps for our first Standing Committee meeting in Hui in the new year, perhaps a paperback on the strategy of actually pulling that conversation together, bringing all those kaupapa together. I think that'll be a great way to start the year.
We'll put that to Nick. I'll put that to Nick a few, might have been one of the hui talking about the upper Ngāti
Yes.
that we need a plan for water for the region. Otherwise you start picking winners and losers and, you know, tōtara wāhi rua e rā kōrero. We start to split off, so I think it's important. And I think, because we know it's going to get very political, these projects, and I'm just wondering that the discussion, no matter whether it's the tuki or up in the Ngāti needs to involve a wider catchment of mana whenua groups. Otherwise, you know, you might be sitting across from Shade and Nile in court. You know, and we don't want to go down there. So we have to all be on this waka together. Otherwise, you know, we're going to be going like what happened at the last one. And you had iwi sitting on opposite some of the hapu. Yep. We don't want that. So I think we the sooner we can get together, and I'm just thinking, okay, you've got a trust that's got two reps from Tamatea Pokai whenua. You know, that's a big responsibility for those two to carry the political weight that this is going to need. And yeah, so I mean, we just need to be very think about that. Eh? We've seen it happen.
Yes.
We've seen how that all plays out. So yeah, get around the table early. Kore. Oh, well.
Well, that's an action for next year. Paper in the new year around that strategy.
I think, yeah, through Chair, look, we're hearing your call. You know, mana whenua, iwi need to be around the table. Our call to you is let us know who, make sure we have the right people around that table. So if you can help us with that. And
who are the who's? Who are the who's?
Yep.
It's better to get everyone as many as you can, you know. My thing is, you know, you're missing got some big gaps of people that might not be over the vision, the kōrero, and that could be to the detriment of regional. These are projects of regional significance.
Yes.
They're not just that corner there, just sorting that out. No. It's got big implications right across. Yeah, so
I absolutely agree. I agree. The spanner that's been thrown out into our works is the scheduling of the fast track in these projects. That has really upped the ante on us. Trying to understand what's going to happen next and trying to keep our finger on the pulse as to how are we going to react next, or not be in a reactive space, but be in a proactive space to just hang in there and stay in there and keep ourselves in the picture. And it's just, it's happening so fast and being told it will happen before you know it, that it's like, don't wait till next year. You've got to get in there now, you know, so that we know what's going on, because otherwise we're left sitting on the bank waving at the water going, good luck, see you later. So there's the complex.
Because what we're saying is we're here to support those that are on at the wākainga. Hey, because it's going to take all of us, I think, to get some of these things to where they need to get to.
Through you, Chair, point taken, kia ora. So I will take the action to come back in the new year with the paper around the strategy for engagement to ensure that there is appropriate feedback from this tipu. Just one point for clarification is that the Ruataniwha Dam and fast track process is separate to the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, but we understand the implications and complexities that it adds to conversations such as this. Kia ora.
You happy with that?
Okay. Kia taonga, Māori.
Oh, kia ora. Hey, look, before I get into my, my report, which I apologise, I said last week, and I was just asking Anna to just add her comments, and I got lost in the emails. But just to curtail the previous discussion, when I came on board in 1980, we had Dr. David Dravid, who was the head water scientist for Hawke's Bay Regional Council. He implemented, amongst things, and these are about groundwater, for Hiri at recharge. He set in place, of course, these recharge ponds, which were at the back of Roy's Hill. He was, and of course he came up with a fantastic Hiri groundwater plan. He left, and then we had an American guy came in. He came to the Tai Whenua one day and he started, and this is just following on from Mike. He came in talking, yes, we're going to engage in his water security, blah, blah, blah. And, of course, just shot too far ahead of it. And, of course, along comes a Canadian guy, and he water scientist, Hawke's Bay Regional Council, and he then starts to say, hey, I think the Indian guy actually got it right and the American guy got it wrong. So the outcome to all of this, of course, has been us being in, dare I do say, Environment Court, tank. And this just heralds everything. If we don't do it right, it's going to be a waste of time and a lot of people's time, because part of what we're going through at the moment, in terms of course, the draft tank draft plan, which is under appeal at the moment, is set on the basis of both quantity, quality, limits, standards, policies. That's where we're all going to be confronting the new rules, subject to all of the tumble dryer roller coaster changes that this bloody coalition government are proposing. So we've come through all of that experience, and just knowing that we end up in damn court. It's better to participate than litigate. That's really the fundamental question. But when you are standing passionately by policies, limits, quantity, quality, it comes into the very heart. And I think that's a good segue to come into my report. We've been on an 8-year journey ourselves as part of this Ngāpui Matara Hau awa monitoring water wānanga. What you have before you is an example of what just took place out at Oamahu a couple of weeks ago, and just prior to this particular event. And just grateful that this event highlights one, an engagement of our Oamahu community in and around Lake Oingo and parts of the areas around the Waitio, and of course this being staged at Oamahu. Not too disfamiliar, I guess, with the way by which other tai whenua and other marae hapu throughout the whole of Rohi are undertaking similarly these sorts of wānanga processes. And I do pick up, it's quite a laborious task of actually having to run wānanga. We have a 4 to 6 wānanga annual schedule. And of course, this is all really about connecting with our whānau. It's about sharing, it's about exploring, and it's about handing on, because we do want to create the best awa monitors on behalf of their marae and hapu that are both committed in terms of their role, and of course their active participation in and around setting up, in this case for us, it's been, as I said, a 9-year journey, and we've created our own Waiora Index, Cultural Awa Index, a number of these different frameworks around the countryside, whether that be Ian Rudu's Māori monitoring. I think that's also going under a few twinks, and it's great that at least there are a number of models that are whānau CHI awa that people can pick up for their own respective use in that role. But also just to acknowledge each and every one of those that are around this table that are making a serious contribution to support the role of the Hawke's Bay Regional Council in terms of our state of the pūtaiao, SOP, and in terms of the state of the environment, So between those two disconnects at this point in time, because really that is a huge commitment by by dint of resourcing undertaken by the Hawke's Bay Regional Council, and that we have got already ready-made Marae Hapu influence group areas pretty much covering off the whole of the region of Hawke's Bay Regional Council, that are also at some point in time that connectivity to add value to SOE monitoring processes will be further enabled. Can I also say that we've got a wānanga for the Te Karamu this weekend, so sorry, Ngā Poumatara had an oversight and overview for the lower Tukituki, all of the Te Karamu catchment, and also of the Ngariroro. This weekend, we're at Waipatu Marae, and we've got a 2-day wānanga on the Te Karamu. Over the past month, at the Tamati Club Rooms, I might add, and I just want to acknowledge Stuart White, who's over there and joined my team. Stuart White comes from Waipatu himself, my auntie Sally, Mike's brother, and of course he's been a grateful add-on to the Māori Community Development Unit at Tai Whenua Heretaunga. Stuart facilitated a group of 21 participants, Marae Hapu participants, with SIMS training around Marae emergency training. Very successful in terms of the emergency response post-Gabriel, and of course our role in preparedness for the next one. I mean, you know, we're in that funny kind of space of these are going to be happening more often, and we need to be, of course, alongside of the wider effort of civil defence. We've gone alongside of the Hastings District Council in terms of their emergency response planning that they have conducted, and we've gone alongside that to give it another add-on feature in terms of Marae Hapu emergency coming alongside of it. And it was great to see that 21 of our Marae Hapu people had jumped into that SIMS training, crisis whatever management systems. And I'm very grateful for the fact that the Hastings District Council, as we're working alongside of them, are going to be producing what is it called, Stuart?
Emergency management plan.
Emergency management plan for the Hastings District. I think that's probably just covering off on a couple of items. Anything you may want to say?
Oh, kia ora tātou katoa. My apologies for my lateness this morning. I was actually online at the Kaikoura District Council Spatial Planning hui with the submission that I had put forward in regards to whānau Māori, whenua Māori and papakainga. So just in the last month, our whānau went on a haerenga to strengthen our hononga Kaikoura, manga maunu, and it was actually to receive the final reports with our return of our land back from Kaikoura District Council. What that sparked from my father was a hui. He's like, I'm going into the mayor's office tomorrow so I can have a hui. Within 2 days, we were in council chambers having a conversation across the table with the planning committee. The submission we put forward, I put forward today was awesome, well received, and just, you know, doing exactly what we're doing here, working to support our whānau to be able to occupy our whenua. And yeah, I mean, I suppose that's one aspect of the things that we're all doing within our whānau hapu marae. Just last week we had whenua Māori wānanga, the day before a whānau whenua hui, you know, trying to work to better support our whānau to come into those places prepared, informed, supported. This weekend we have a kaitiaki wānanga, get back to the whenua, get back to our tūranga waiwai, whakapaipai te whenua, come and plant some trees, come and do some weeding, all the good stuff. And in the next month we have whakapapa, rongoa and rāranga wānanga. So we're working to nurture that space of our whānau hapu marae, bring our, and create an environment that is centred on ourselves, brings us back to our tūranga waiwai. So real grassroots, keeping it real. And as Sophie will know too, and maybe you all do with the Waimarama Beach access, you know, that's been quite a contentious issue within our community. Sophie led and mediated that space, and I would not have wanted to be in her role or position as that. A hard task, but we were able to, really form something that meant real compromise on all fronts, but for things to have progressed the way that they have has been really exciting. It means that we can actually work together, and a part of that commitment is looking to have a sand dune restoration project that will be led by Ron Flowers, who's a part of our community, skilled in what he's doing, and being able to both educate our community and for our whānau hapu to be involved in that space, and then to give back to Te Taio, because that for me was a missing component in vehicle beach access. It was, what do I want? It wasn't, what's the long term? What does that look like for intergenerational, not for this summer, not for the next 6 months? So, we're doing what we can, and just my apologies on not being here earlier, but we keep going, so kia ora.
Councillor says?
Yeah, I think it's really important because while there's big stuff going on, actually the really little stuff in place with communities at this kind of position, it was a really special space, and I really do think it's important to acknowledge Anna, because what happened in that small group where we had these sort of two sides is what Anna did was actually bring the voice of the beach, which was actually quite moving for people in our community whose only interest was how they would be able to still access the beach so they could fish or they could travel. And I think it was a real highlight for me actually over years of these sort of conversations, this small group coming together in this way. So thank you, Anna. It was and baby of course is there too.
Kia ora, Anna. Tō kōrero with regards to vehicles on the beach. Kōrero.
Kore, that would be me. Nothing. Not for anyone, not for anything. That's educating our own, saying, hey, well, you might just have to get those legs moving and get your steps in today. But the reality is where it landed with having side-by-sides and quads is, opening up the space, which really was a challenge in regards to our whānau hapu being able to support decisions being made moving forward and what that looks like long term. The discussions were fiery, they were healthy, and that's, I think it's also recognising that we don't exclude ourselves from having vehicles on the beach as well, because that's our uncles and our koros who we're saying, oh, hold up, that means you too. And I don't think there was necessarily the understanding that it would affect us, that it was just, one part of our community that it affected. So, all in all, it's landed where it has, and time to review when it comes about. Hopefully it's all better and we just get our sand dunes taken care of for a start. That's where I'm at.
Planting them with the grasses is the solution.
Well, we're going to finish off with Wairo. So, Paul, you can lead and I'll tap in whenever I can. So we've got 10 minutes to go before lunch. We're going to get the tap, so we're going to be the last lōpū.
I'll be quick.
Takiwā.
Don't want to hold up lunch. Kia ora tata. Ngā mihi nui kia koutou katoa. Kahununu Executive, the group that I represent, continue to support the community with health programs and housing. And their biggest problem is trying to meet pay parity for their staff with the likes of Wairo Hospital and such like. It's a continuing battle, but they do it. We continue to support the college with medical services, and housing portfolio has 17 houses. We purchased all of the state houses in Wairo, and we provide housing to the whānau hapu at a reasonable cost. he started life as a branch of the New Zealand Māori Council, which has drifted into the mists of time. But whakapapa's whakapapa, and that's where we descend from. So that's about where it all stands. Yeah, so there's a very good group to belong to. It's a business, and there's a lot of stuff goes on there that you wouldn't normally find, but it's good. And yeah, so I'm happy to be here on their behalf. Kia ora tata.
Just to tag on to the Kahununu Executive for the Wairau Whenua, we continue to hold a clothing bank in partnership with the Red Cross. We also supporting an alternative education out of Wairau College, Ropu, and there's been a couple of returns of tauira go back into the system, which has been really good. And the tauira that are within the adult education sphere run under the Tai Whenua have kind of really grown in their reo, in their tikanga, even in their completing applications for workspaces, when it comes to applying for their first bank account, etc. So yeah, these are people that should really be at school. But in the same breath, when it comes to fishing and knowing what's going on in the awa, these are the rangatahi that we're actually working with, and they've got their eyes on the pulse at the moment, so we introduce them to their maunga, so they know their pepaha, introduce them to their awa, and the tikanga and things going on. Also, our building at the Wairau Tai Whenua on 3 Bridge Street is available to all marae. There's a lot of marae that are not building purposely fit, they're not fit for purpose at the moment. And so the Tai Whenua building is available for all marae for AGMs, meetings, wānanga. And talking about wānanga, there's been a lot of wānanga in Wairau around, everything when it comes to flood control. We've had a lot of kind of in-house stakeholder group wānanga around the flood control. Hasn't been information for the whole community, and it's only just been opened up recently. So I attended a meeting, and thank you to Wairama and who turned up to a hui that was held by tātou o Te Wairau, just listening to the concerns of Māori and affected whānau and whenua owners in the rohe o Te Wairau, where the options have been thrown out there, kind of like in a Governor Gray, Don McLean kind of way, and just throwing out options. They're not even their options. So these wānanga are going to continue to be facilitated by tātou to give Māori a really decent chance to actually hammer it out for themselves. We've had visitors from Te Karaka who were left by civil defence there, who actually created their own plan and found their own pūtea and things like that, and raised their whare as an option. And whilst they were raising their whare, looking at options to be more resilient for the retreat a little bit later on. But in the meantime, Wairau are not happy about the process and how it's actually been bullied. The community's been bullied. I'm going to leave that there. There's also yes.
So just, just a question I have, and it's that the community's been bullied, and then obviously got Lawrence Shaw in there driving some of their conversation, and then is that, for me, I'm just speaking on our behalf of our Tai Whenua, we wouldn't like to see any of our Tai Whenua put in a bullied situation. So I'm just saying, if that's, I don't know, but it'd be good at some stage to have a follow-up report to, because we want to support our Tai Whenua from Ahuriri, and if you're feeling bullied, then obviously we want to, help you, support you, so you're not feeling bullied. I don't know the parts of the equation, but I'm just saying, we would want to total.
So, yeah, appointed by the Crown and really has a strong agenda, but, it's almost like a bullet against your head when he, can push all these, political things on our people, and it's actually, one-sided. And it's not a time to bully Wairau. I'm going to kind of leave it there. And that's kind of the biggest thing on people's minds is how can you move a river? How can you re-divert a river? The options are all around Māori land and Māori whenua and joint Māori whenua. There's going to be problems when it comes to te ture whenua Māori. And so some of the whānau that have come through Tākitumi Marae, Rua Taniwha Marae and Mihi Marae are the three main marae that are going to be affected in this options paper that's going out. Tātou's on one side looking after things with the tripartite. We'll leave that there in that camp. But I was advised by Tātou that their logo has been withdrawn off everything and that they oppose it. And that tripartite arrangement is with the people of Te Rohe o Te Wairoa. That tripartite is their tool. So if they think that this is a 3-2 or 3-1 scenario, you're wrong. And I'm going to leave that there. I'm going to let our chair from Ngāti Kahungunu Incorporated, Baden, finish off after Mātai.
Kei te hia mana, kai au etahi whakaaro me ki nei, kia whakautu i ngā pūrongo o te takiwā. Hui tānguru taku titiro kia koutou, kua whakatau o koutou pūrongo o ripu atu o te takiwā, koutou ngā tinitai whenua tēnā ka mihi kau atu ana rā kia koutou. I runga i ngā whakaaro tēnā koe te pāpā e pāpā api, me au nā mihi, kua mihi ā ki ngā toki o te tari tai ao o te iwi o Ngāti Kahungunu, ko Shane, ko Ngaio, ko Rāua hoki, ngā pūkenga me ki o ngā take o te ture Pākehā, me ngā take o te pūtaia. O reira tēnā ka mihi hoki kia koe e pita e tautoko hia mai i ngā mahi kua mahi kētia nei, me ngā mahi kei mui a tātou. E Anko Paura, tēnā anō hoki koe, kua hau mai te taha kau mātua ngā kōrero kua puta ake. No roto mai i te rohe o Pōtiri kore, ko Pōranga hau tēnā anō hoki koe, te pau tautoko, te pau arahi i tō tātou ni hāpuri o Pōranga au, ahakoa Māori mai, Pākehā mai, ko te hāpuri ko tahi, ngā whakaaro kua puta ake. Tēnā anō hoki koe te whanaunga o Rākai Pāka, e kia ana te kōrero o tātou tihi maunga o mau kai, te tai e tātou, te wete i ngā whakaaro, kia kotahi ai i ngā whakaaro, no roto mai i ngā tini āhuatanga o te Wairoa, te takiwā o te Wairoa o rongo mai wahine, kia kotahi ai i ngā whakaaro. Ai te pāpā e Papa Roger. Nui rawa ngā mihi ki a koe, ahakoa kau mātua mai ngā whakaaro kua puta ake nei, kua tipu, kua rea nei koe, ki roto i ngā tini maunga o Ruahina, e hoama tēnei au, kia whakapuaki mai i nei kōrero tūpato, tā te meara, ko te puna matua o te awa o te tukituki ara atu ana kei raro i ngā hiwi o Ruahine. Tai atu rā ko mano atu, ko makare tū, ko manga te wai, ara tukipō tukituki, tai atu rā ki puke ora, whakawhiti mai rā ki tapairu, kia rere kau atu ngā mihi mai oha kia here taunga haukunu i ararau. No reira, hoki nei ngā kōrero, ki te kaupapa kōrero o te Waipuhurau, ki hei tātou whakamanamana hia i ngā whanaungatanga, i ngā manaakitanga o tēnā o ngā hapu o te awa o te tukituki, ka hoki nei au ki ngā kōrero o te Waipuhurau. E āhei ana te tangata ki reira, ki te paitini i te wai, me he mea ka paitini, ka paru te wai ki reira, ana ka aha rā te puku, ana ka pīrau rawa te puku. No reira, e kōrero tūpato tēnei ki a tātou, me whakamana, me whakakaha i tātou i te whanaungatanga ki ngā tini hapu kārangaranga maha o ia awa. Mai ngā hiwi o ruahine tai atu rā ki te ngutu awa, ki te ngutu awa o ngaruroro o tukituki. Ara atu ana o te tūtaikuri. O reira whakaaro nui ana tātou ki tēnā. Mo tēnei take o te pāpuna, o te dam, kei te huri au ki te reo prāua, ko tahi ana ke te pātai o pātai hia nei ki roti au. E ai ki ngā kōrero o taua wā, i ngā tau te kaupua, hi pātu nei, if it wasn't economically and commercially viable i taua wā, e aha te rerekētanga i tēnei wā. So what is the difference now? Ko waihoake au taua pātai kia tātou, kia mārara atu ki ngā whakaaro ki tēnā, ki roto i ki tēnā o ngā tini hapu o te takiwa. Hoi anō, e mārei koutou e whai kaha nei ia te wā ki te tākoha atu, i te mātauranga, i te mōhiotanga, i te māramatanga, whakapapa hitori tikanga kawa, ki wa tātou marae, koutou o te manaaki taia, koutou ngā paumatara, koutou o ngā manu o te whatu, koutou anō te pātaka pupuri mātauranga, tēnā koutou. Tēnā anō hoki koe e te pāpā, e pōrua tahi no te wairua, tēnā anō hoki kōrua e pātai hia i ngā pātai uaua. Me mutu i ēnei mahi takahi ki rungi i te mana o te wairua. Ka tika. No reira, tēnā tātou, anikera ngā whakaaro no mātou ngai kai kaunihira arohi o te mātaua Māui kia koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou. Kāria ngā tikahu ngunu kia mihia, kia ngā tikahu ngunu koporaihana anō, kia waihoake ki reira.
Ai, kia ora, Madam Chair. Ai, tika anō te takapuna mihi kua mihia. Ki tō tātou kai karakia, tō tātou nāngai hoki, me koutou hoki o mai tērā pito, o ngā tikahu ngunu mai a paritu tai atu ki Porongau. Kia ora koutou. He papu kororo, ai te matua Māui pēr, ki te raki. Firstly, going through environmental matters pēr. It's a bit tricky. Water was high on the agenda right up until Gabriel started. Very much high on the agenda. We all went on trips a couple of years ago with their planning, etc. And now it's coming back up. With Gabriel, it seems that the government has put this IPMO in, Independent Project Management Office, which actually runs all the recovery stuff. So we're reassembling and catching up. They go out and do all the recovery work, and we're starting to get back into business as usual. And part of that business as usual is re-looking at our water security. Yeah. And again, 10 years ago, they were all up in arms. And what has changed? I think the reserve is still there, which blocked them the first time around. It hasn't gone anywhere. So it's good to hear the Tamatias looking at water as well. Good to say that Wairua doesn't need any. You fellas help yourselves, and we'll look after ourselves up there. The other one for us, particularly around the north, is that conservation isn't high on Māori books, because they're the poor cousins of all the government departments, and they don't have any money. Yep. That's why they give a lot of their reserves back to us. And up in Wairua, Tiurui gets all the money, and so does Maunga Haru. So everyone in between, really the iwi and hapu groups have to help themselves and look after their own resources.
I think we've finally woken up a bit in Pāhauwera, and that we've got a Taiao committee too. And it's to get ourselves back on our own land again. We have a lot of reserves out toward Putere, out on the beach, in behind Waihua, and in behind the forestry areas done by the Mohaka Forest. So there's quite a bit of real estate, especially one of our most important areas is on top of Mangaharuru on the right-hand edge of the range, called Te Heru o Turea. To us, that's where all our rangatira are buried. So it's certainly a significant whenua for us. So all these reserves, apart from Te Uruwera, all the reserves in the northern area are in Aotearoa. Wairau was really good at farming. You know, everything's farmed. So there's a lot of little cleared land there, that's why it's falling off the hills today, I think, and there's a lot of silt in it everywhere. That also brings us on to the Mohaka plan change. So, like most youths, we're looking at how the government's changing the RMA, and to be fair, they've changed it for the benefit of the farmers so they can get on and do their business without us all running interference. And I think we have to, because it's in place, we have to trust that farmers know what they're doing and be prepared to listen and talk to us. So, but we're still chugging along, working with Heneuru and working with Tūwhare Toa on the Mohaka catchment and our own whānau on the Waikari, the Waihua awa. So Wairau's get in and carry on doing the Wairau catchment properly. I think they extended the time frames for all the changes to be in place. So we've met a couple of times with our neighbours, and things seem to be going okay. We've got a good team leading the kōrero. And just on that, Māori, 1980, my bro, you were in the services, you would have got a good service and good contact medal twice over. Twice over. So, yes, so the environment for us is still a big issue. Because we live where we do, we do look at our river and our whenua, and we get engaged with consents on the river for gravel and other things. I think a couple of years ago, we were looking at trying to get a global consent up in Pāhauwera when James was the CEO, and our people are still doing that. I think we're still going to chase that up. The other one, of course, is where are our people at with Category 3s and Category 1s? So Wairau's obviously still trying to look for a solution. We're still going to be Category 3. A lot of the Category 3 buyouts have happened, and the CEO and whoever the IPMO people that are working on it have made deals with whānau that have moved in and out. However, there are a lot of whānau still left that are in Category 3 that actually want to run businesses. And they're the ones still on the ground looking for support, because obviously with Category 3 you don't get any, you're not allowed accommodation, and so houses are no longer insured. But there's also, by default, does mean that their businesses aren't going to get insured too. So they're still looking to ways to negotiate so they can keep their livelihoods going. That includes the S Valley, and everywhere else, and points in between there and down towards Ohiti and rest. So yeah, we've got to find solutions for them too. What we can see in Pāhauwera, obviously we participate with what's going on in the Rohe, and the iwi chairs forums obviously puts a lot on everybody's plate. They put out about more paperwork than the regional council. And that's a lot. There's a lot to keep up.
300 pages.
Yeah. You might change your job and be a politician, Baden. But it's good to see that you guys went out, toured around the place, and got a chance to look at Pāhauwera's orchard. And whilst we're glad, we can see that our people need housing and a whole lot of other things. But we can't afford to pay that housing ourselves, but we can afford to try and work out, give them employment so they can buy their own houses. We were lucky, following Gabriel, in that we made sure that we remind Willie Te Aho that he is a Te Aho, and they all come from Mohaka.
And so he let us in and we were able to get some housing support in the way of batches and things. But that, at the moment, the biggest landowner in our district is us. So we are looking at making land available for our whānau that's beside the roads. Anything beside the road should be fair game, whether it's in Kahununu, Putere, Mohaka, Raupunga, or that called Māori. So we do have land available, we just got to help our whānau be able to afford a mortgage and get them in there. I think when we got the batches, we actually housed 80 people, 80 whānau that were suddenly dry and warm for winter, so that was great. But it's still not the same as having a decent house when we're having I remember like 70 years ago, 60 years ago, yeah, I was this big, and my father had to move out because there was no housing back then, and a whole lot of them had to move out. They changed the rules. You had to own 10 acres or more before you could put a house up. And our family only had like 50 acres or 30 acre home places, and they couldn't afford to cut that into 10 pieces for 10 kids. So the old man had a shearing gang. We took his whole shearing gang to Manawatu. Now they're all from Manawatu down south, shearing down south and all around the world, but they're not back home. The only one that ever come back was my father and myself and a sister. So that's at about 50 odd people that left to go shearing down in Manawatu. So yeah, so that is a problem. It's how we turn around that, and we have more people living in the bay than at home. In the bay and in Wairoa, about 1,000 in Wairoa, 1,000 down in Napier, 1,000 in Hastings. So it's about how we attract those people back. But what we're telling them, of course, is that they're still pāhauera wherever they are. So we'll try and help them where they are now. And I think if we look at it, we look back on our whakatauki, our principles. We all have those same principles of being good people, rangatira-tanga, manaaki-tanga, all of those are there, but how we actually react and work is based on our whakatauki. And one of those, I guess, is something the regional council was probably didn't do very well in the last flood. We didn't get the bar open, and that's that's really principal to the people of Wairoa. But it just didn't get done because we didn't have a very good process. And I think as we've discussed, every little kid in Wairoa knows the whakatauki about te o tāne, and that whakatauki goes, Kau e hoki mata waiwai tūtuki, upper and lower, matu puku pakuru. So it's like, yeah, go hard or go home. And to be honest, we didn't go hard enough. So we've had to change our rules and make sure that we can meet those commitments from now on. And in this book, it's all those points about what they said should change with mana whenua. They're all in there about how we need better agreements, especially between like Wairoa and Porongahau with those marae. So I think that's why those MOUs are out there. We need better working together with mana whenua on projects like the water, and especially those that don't have any protection at all right now. So those are in there, just how do we whakatina under that? It sounds good on paper, but it's a bit different trying to make it work. So. Wairoa's lucky in that the government gave 70 million. Rescue's got to fight over the other 150 or something. So, but that is a problem. I think our chair hinted at it, that things aren't going well. They feel like they're being bullied. And I think it's because we mucked around too long having the stakeholder group, and we should have went straight to the people a lot earlier. We're only just getting to the people now, and they have really big decisions. A lot of people have really big decisions to make. And it's one thing they're trying to say is like, make sure you look after the marae first. But actually, back in the day, when you never went to Takitamu, you went to Waihere.
You
never went to Whakerangi Marae, you went to Paeroa. So it's the kāinga that's the important thing. It's the people. It's not the marae. What I'm trying to say is that if our people are flooded and moved, they're going to have to move the whole hapu and the marae. or the whole hapu stays here in the marae. It's how you look at it like that. You know, ko te kāinga tua, ko mate te kāinga tahi, ka ora te kāinga rua. But you got to make sure that kāinga tahi is actually pakaru. If it ain't, then no one ain't going to move. So yeah, so that's what the whānau are facing now. And they need a lot of help, a lot of kōrero. And I've been to a couple of the meetings they've had in town. And before we took a lot of stick a few months ago, but now the wheels are changing, and it looks like the regional district council is taking more heat than somebody else right now. You know,
Share the
pipes
heat.
and drains.
Share the heat. I've been way up here too.
But it is, and it's different people are at the meetings, and they've got different ideas, and it's really good. I mean, there was a big push about dredging, and then there was another pushback to say there was cost so much money and you can't bloody do it. But when the guys up talked last night, he talked about channeling, making channels out to the bar, and that's really what we want the dredge to do. I mean, that's probably the real discussion that whānau were thinking about, just didn't know how to word it. So, you know, it's all those sort of things. So, it's a bit of a shame that everyone's where they are, and a lot of people have got on and got their flats are back up and working, the houses are working, a lot aren't. They still don't have the wherewithal to get it going. And grateful for TPK, they've been there quite a bit, helping the whānau. And a lot of other funding agencies have jumped in and helped out. So that's all underway. The other one, is, I guess, is the cultural side of our whānau up north. And like everywhere else, there's been a lot of mate in Wairua in the last month. And there's heaps. It was good to be able to jump on with Ngāti Kaungariu Incorporated and get up to the tangi for Kingi 2 Haitia. That was really good. It was cool. Good to see me and Sandra on the walkway and up there with everybody else, and some of the others that made it. Wairua, there was a few Wairua people got on there, come all the way from Nuhaka. Yes. Leaves in them, and the Kohanga Reo movement made an effort to get down there. So it was cool. It was good. Bit of a fast turnaround, but yeah, it's. You don't know why was just busy. They were running around all day, so you couldn't afford to hang around and get on the road. Thing and move, go home. So yeah, so it's been a busy few months. Christmas is coming up. Cool. We got kapahaka this week. The Wairua Schools kapahaka's on Friday. Power Wars is on Saturday. So that's going to be a busy little weekend. I'm sure Waidama's got her pew ready and her toy. Get out there and do it for the team. So yeah, if we don't have a meeting again, so good luck to everyone. And hopefully you keep the kettle boiling for a bit longer yet. Good to see the whātuma getting out there. I mean, the biggest example for us recently has been Peka Peka. That looks really good. Tūtara has been cleaned up a bit. But Whakaki for us is doing the same thing. And it's providing a good example where people can get out and do their own nurseries. It was a good push the other year on the river. And there's a lot of people actually knowledgeable about nurseries now. We just got to help them grow them. So yeah, that's good. Good.
And hand the rākau over to you, Baden, to give a bit of a report before lunch.
Kia ora tātou. I think our Taiao team have been doing mahi with our Tai whenua and with our PSGEs. But kei te pai tērā, I guess from a board point of view, kei te titiro o rautaki tātou, mo te oranga o tātou te iwi Māori. So, I mean, we've been fully engaged in all of these kind of big motu. I've been to all of them. Started off at Turanga Waiwai, Rātana, Waitangi. There was a hui in Te Arawa, there was a National Iwi Chairs Forum, but that was just a start of a planning kind of a thing going forward. And then we had the hui taumata at Oamahu, and then Te Puinui o Toka at Tuahiwi. National Iwi Chairs Forum last week. We've got a hikoi coming through town next week. Got a hui today, actually, with the District Council in Hastings, just to talk about what that might look like, and how we support our whānau that are going to be participating in it. You know, so, and I'm just kind of reading through the tribunal's report on the iwi, the Treaty Principles Bill that got shuffled through yesterday. Yeah, so, you know, in light of stuff that's happening regionally, you know, there's a lot going on in the national scene that we need to kind of be over. Of course, we're driving the kotahitanga kaupapa, which was the topic at Omahu, the home of the kotahitanga. We had the pōwhiri for National Iwi Chairs at Waipatu the other day, you know, reiterating that kōrero, that kahununu have always been very political, have always had that thought that if we was to come together under our own whare, ha ko ngā whakapētanga a te kāwanatanga, you know, then we can still support each other. So I think that's still a key whakaaro, I guess. You know, people are, now that all the four winds have spoken, what next? Where to next? We've got a new queen. You know, what's her role in bringing the motu together? So, yeah, I think kahununu especially, we're keen to put some next steps in front of the motu in terms of what a whare te rangatiratanga could look like, e whare kotahitanga, and pulling us together. But as you know, there are lots of disparate rōpū. National Iwi Chair Forum last week, Self and Thompson took them through a strategic rautaki session, you know, kei te pai tonu te rautaki for this kaupapa, in the context of the hui a motu and, you know, all the kōrero that's happened. You know, is the structure still fit for purpose? The values still there, you know, where could we be thinking in a broader context? So that was interesting, you know, we had 85, with the wānanga started at this end of the table and went around 85 iwi in PSGEs. So it was good, it was good wānanga. But I think, you know, there's opportunities for groups like that have kind of evolved over the last 10 to 12 years to power up. Hey, they need to power up because, you know, if you ask what the impact is on the marae floor, well, you know, it's a hard one to answer. But there have been gains in terms of getting into in some of the pūtea around housing. But, you know, as iwi Māori, we need a political strategy. We've got elections coming up next year for local government. We've got elections coming up the year after for
elections national.
The motu. So what's our political strategy so that we're coming from an area of strength rather than trying to educate a government that has no aroha for us. It would seem. Paku te aroha kia mātou. So yeah, so busy time. We've got our AGM coming up in a couple of weeks. Whānau at Splash. Haramai. We had the SGM about 3-4 months ago now. And that was a little paitahui. Nunga pātai. So yeah, so we're keen to, and I guess he tunu hangai tēnei kia tātou, with Mike, ourselves, PSGs, have started to kōrero around ko tahitanga o Ngāti Kahungunu, or Kahungunu Whānui. You know, we've got Tai Whenua, we've got PSGs, we've got iwi. How do we better organise ourselves to leverage on our strengths, our whakapapa, our scale, our settlements combined as a big pūtea? You know, Cape Palliser Station has just gone onto the market, first time in 30-something years. And I'm like on the phone, yeah, Wairarapa, kei te pia tātou, kua rite, you got to spare 5 mil. You know, we can put 5 million in, or 2 million, you know, we need to be, but you know, those iconic bits of whenua. Te Kawerere, pā tūwatawata's on that station. You know, that was a very important pā for Wairarapa. So, but, you know, if we are collective, we can kind of make those plays quite quickly. But at the moment, you know, we kind of, yeah, how's our PSGs, how can we work together? So, anyway, yeah, lots going on there, Hoama. I think have a good rest over Christmas so that the new year, I think, is going to be really interesting. It's been a full-on this past 12 months, calendar year. I think next year is going to be, but rather than react, we need to set the narrative, need to build our whare, and yeah, I think that'll be the mahi going into January. But
Go and buy that station. Hawke whenua's got all the money.
Wairarapa got a good pot. But anyway, you know, I mean, these are some things. I mean, I was at the Tohu Kaimoana. We had a hui takiwa up in Te Tairawhiti yesterday and got to fly up on that little four-seater. First time on a four-seater, but it was a beautiful day to fly up there. And, you know, flew over all our maunga. You know, yeah, from between here and Turanganui-a-Kiwa. So whakapūnake, you know, you could see Panikere, you could see Momo Kai, because it goes straight through the middle. And you can see out maunga kahia, you know, all of those maunga. But yeah, but then I look down and I can see the impact still from Cyclone Gabrielle all over the place, scars on our whenua. So we've got a lot of things to work on together. Hey, together we're stronger. But yeah, there's stuff happening in the Moana space as well, in terms of Tohu Kaimoana getting ready to release 20% shares in Moana fisheries out to iwi.
Really?
Yeah, so that's coming up, yeah, that's kind of the Māori Fisheries Amendment Act. So that was the kōrero yesterday. And so that's probably the first big play and probably in the sequence of other plays, getting iwi closer to that. You know, Tohu Kaimoana has been sitting in the middle for the last 20-something years. Actually, iwi are in a position now to appoint the board members to look at how these businesses are running. But it's pretty hard out there, you know, whether it's primary industry on the whenua or on the moana. Ooh, tough times. So, yeah, I think, you know, as iwi, PSGs and tai whenua, you know, looking at our portfolios, you know, a station like, what's it called?
Kidnappers?
Cape Palliser, you know,
Pallisers.
they don't make the 8%, 9% returns, but important pieces of whenua. So if we can collectivise on farms, because I know, you know, Wairarapa got a couple of farms back in their settlement. We've got a big farm, Tautani, yeah. That 4,000 hectare, you know, that's the size of these things.
With
so,
16 mil too.
Well, that's right. You know, we need to be collective on how we manage our farms. Just be smarter. I know there's a heap of farms up in Wairau that we could be working together with.
Stay in the lane, stay in the lane.
Well, you know, if we want to be effective on these farms, a lot of these farms struggling.
Yeah.
They struggle street, man. Yeah. So yeah. But anyway, exciting times. Kaka.
For me, Baden, get the fish shop going back up to over the street there.
There's plans for that,
Then we're on
space.
with
There's plans for that space. It'll be out soon. Yeah.
Oh, good.
Well, whānau, we're going to come back after lunch in about
30 minutes.
30 minutes. That's 20 past. Quarter past one. So you start at 20 past one for lunch, and that's where we'll be getting all our updates first with the chairs verbal updates. Is that right? Oh, yeah. So I'd like to seek a mover and a seconder to receive the Tai Whenua Takiwa report.
Yep, I'll second.
Thank you, Paula. Thank you, Peter Eden. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Kia ora, carried. And Peter. Okay, let's break for lunch and we'll be back at 1:15. Kia ora. love to have heard a verbal update on all the current issues. Thank you to Councillor Lambert for your updates, but I'm going to looking towards Will Foley, Councillor, to as Deputy Chair to give us an update. Nō reira, tēnā koe.
Kia ora, Chair, and thank you. Look, I just wanted to start off and acknowledge all the speakers this morning. Just the commitment and the work going on has been pretty awesome to hear, very positive. Some real positive things happening out there, and just want to say well done. And it's just been great to listen to all that going on. So well done to the members of the committee. I don't have anything specific from Chair Ormsby in terms of an update. A lot of what's been talked about this morning is kind of everything, or the main things going on, but obviously the Niwi work is still a main focus, and it was a reminder to us last night, those of us at the Wairau meeting, around the timeframes of this and the need to have business cases put forward, otherwise the risk of the money going back to Wellington, and so it remains a key focus of this council. You may not be aware we have assigned councillors as leads to each of the different projects, and so if you can get from one of us at a later after the meeting if you want each councillor that's responsible for each project, but basically from Wairoa down to Prongaho and in between all those projects have a specific councillor that or councillors that are leads for each of the projects. The only other thing to probably mention is the annual plan, which seems like we've only just got through the long-term plan, but the annual plan coming up for next year, and there is a paper that will cover it off, but be keen to get your thoughts when we get to that paper, just on around the target was 18.5% as a rate increase for year 2 of the LTP, and as a council we are doing our best to look at how we reduce that, simply because of the burden of rates and everything else going on at the moment. We think it's appropriate to see if we can address that. So just looking forward to your thoughts on that when we get to that paper. Thank you, Chair.
You're welcome. It looks like the advocacy and resource management reform update person is not here, and we're just going to move to, because I see Deirdre here, the development of the HBRC's annual plan, probably in a minute. Okay. All right. She's just snuck away.
Just bringing a device. Just doing something with the computer. Technical
Right, just a bit of a technical issue to be sorted first, but I'm under the understanding with the just rolling back a little bit that the update from the chair will be what's the word?
There wasn't one.
It wasn't one. It was just a brief with no substance.
No, so just yeah, just
Thank you, Wills.
there wasn't a written one from Chair Honeyway at this stage.
Okay, so Secretary after Deirdre, and then we've got the climate risk assessment with Jack afterwards.
So are you skipping through item 8 to go to item 9?
We'll come back when the presenters
So we're going to come
are
back
back
to
here.
item 8 as soon as the responsible person turns up with that. We're looking at item 9 with Deirdre. It's just come through the door. Hi, Mahara. Beg your pardon, that's Desiree.
She ran.
And no pressure. We've got 15 minutes set aside for you. It says 20, but
Don't think I'll need that.
Desiree, take a couple of breaths.
Thank you, Chair. Tēnā koutou I te komiti. Kua haere mai nei ki tēnei hui nā. Ki te kōrero I ngā kaupapa o tēnei rā. Ko Desiree Cull toku ingoa, noa te whanganui a rautu ahau, kei Miani ahau I noho ana, he kauwhakahaere rautaki ahau, nō reira tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou katoa. Thank you to Te Rangi Hau for that encouragement. Actually, and I'm part of his Te Reo class every Friday. I'll largely take this paper as read. This is really signalling that we have started work on our annual plan. So the annual plan is an opportunity to make minor adjustments to what was forecast for year 2 of our 3-year plan. So that was adopted by Council just in June of this year. So HBRC has a forecast rates increase of 18.3%. And the Council has instructed staff to go away and look at options to reduce that. So we are just in the early stages of that process, looking at kind of packages, savings packages, a package where we could reduce our levels of service for existing activities or even stop some activities. And then as well as that, what are the areas of additional costs that we know are coming at us? And that might be things like we've had all our assets revalued. So we know our interest and depreciation costs are greater than what we forecast. So we have to sort of uncontrollable costs like that we have to add on. So we're looking to add those in but reduce the overall rate impact, which is some challenging conversations. And hoping to land that before Christmas so that staff have January, February to go away and do detailed budgeting and write a consultation plan. The paper does also just talk about 3 areas that we know will be consultation topics. The first is Council have committed to providing the local share for Havelock North Streams. That's work that HDC, they're the asset owner, and they're doing the work. But HBRC will rate for it using a similar rating model as HDC would. So it will those costs will fall on HDC district. And we, through the last long-term plan, Council indicated they wanted to relook at a few of our rates, including the public transport rate and the Upper Tukitok Remote Control Scheme. So that's not the cost, but how we rate. And so that's a change to our revenue and financing policy. And the third topic we know we'll be consulting on is, and we're doing that concurrently, is the regional public transport plan. Again, that's less about the cost of it, but more about the bus services. And depending on what comes out of the conversations with Council around reducing costs, they may trigger some other consultation topics. So the last part of the paper has a little timeline. We have indicated that we'll come back to the Māori Committee at its next meeting with an update. And that before we go to consultation, which is scheduled for April. So I'm happy to take any questions.
Questions?
Yeah, I've got a question. And I suppose just a direct, so as you talk to your managers and you're doing cuts in that, I'm just wondering, is there, just with the current budget within that Māori unit, is there any impact on them when you talk about how they, been, yeah, I'm just trying to get my head around that, if they're going to take it, how you try and, obviously trying to save dollars.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, and any impacts on the Māori Committee? I don't know if that's been in the conversation, I just thought I'd ask the question.
Not to date.
Okay.
Yep.
Any further questions, Māori?
Kia ora, Desiree. Just remind me in terms of the rating changeover, probably in the last 12 months, where it was rateable on land value, was it? As opposed to capital value? Can you just give me a reminder of all of that again?
Yep. So we changed from applying our general rate. Our general rates moved from the land value to capital value, and that was part of numerous changes that we made to our revenue and financing policy, and that was adopted in February, and then we implemented it sort of through the long-term plan. So through the long-term plan, there was that change plus additional costs, so that did fall heavily on some ratepayers.
Okay. I guess my question that follows, I guess, has there been, I guess, an analysis of what that value increase between each of those particular scales would represent? From one, because obviously the current one is it on capital value, isn't it?
The general rate, yes.
Yeah.
Yep.
So from from our rates, we will get that information.
Yeah.
Actually, I haven't had a close look at it, but certainly would be an increased number. Would that be correct? Between each?
Some ratepayers would have gone down, because when you do a rates review, there's winners and losers.
Yeah.
So those properties that have a ratio of capital value over land value, if you take capital value over your land value, and your ratio is less than 1.78, you'll probably see a decrease.
Right. Okay.
But what complicates it is that we had, through the long-term plan, additional costs. So if you have to strip that out to see apples with apples, plus we changed a whole lot of other rates as well. So it's really complicated.
I guess, look, we've come through one of the biggest impacts over the last, 2 years, or particularly following COVID, more recently Gabrielle. We've been conditioned to say there's a rebuild going on necessary, and that's got to reflect in, of course, on where does ratepayer money come alongside of taxpayer money, and that contribution. My mum, she would go without to just make sure that the rates were paid. Just keeping an eye, just on what outgoings in the household would be at the end of the day, because I think we still have got a base of people that are in that social deprivation. And I'm not too sure if you put the microscope down in terms of what that representation would be in terms of, I would imagine, and this is probably one of the difficulty in terms of Māori land, that's either owned with less than 10 owners as opposed to multiple owners. And there is some rate dispensation in terms of Māori land and corporations paying tax across the counter. But still, in some cases, those may be still paying their rates. So I think it's inevitable that in terms of when we did look at the long-term plan, did we ever forecast now what we're talking through, which has been heavy climatic weather events, and of course the impact that that has on the region in terms of that whole rebuild needed to actually get the economy up and running. But at the end of the day, has to come out from somewhere. And knowing that it's a pinch on everyone, also, and I've really kind of looked down the periscope, or put the periscope down, or put the microscope down to see what that impact would be on those particularly that are represented in the social deprivation column. But I would imagine that overall it's a tightening up process, and it has to reflect increased rates. Was it once upon a time, and I'm just trying to work out, because Hastings, when these things came out and we were all looking at Hastings, it was 19%. Have we started on the basis that it was always 18.3, just so I'm clear in my mind, that this projected potential increase?
So I guess our year 2 forecast of 18.3 is the starting point, and then we're looking to reduce that.
Yep.
But still knowing we've committed to some cyclone recovery, so that's what makes it really challenging. But but
can you look into the crystal ball and tell us whether or not it's likely to go up?
Sorry, it is going up.
I think as fair. I don't want to it's really a governor's space, but the strong indication from them is they want to see that reduced.
I'll give you an actual example. My regional council rate has gone from 180 odd to 370.
Double.
That's not 18.5%. What happened there?
But so can we have some clarity here, please? So the rates that you're talking about is last year's, is the current year. What she's talking about here is the year to come. So she's ahead of herself here when she's talking about 18%.
Oh, yeah, no,
Your
this
rates
is-
went up over 20% in this current financial year.
Yeah, the average.
At
So
least.
It's the average that we talk about, and so everyone's rates are different depending on where they live, what line items they have for targeted rates. So it is at the average, no one's really the average.
So the headline here you're trying to tell us, Deirdre, is that currently the projection was at 18%. The council's working extremely hard to bring it below that point in time.
They've listened.
Below that
yeah,
point.
to the community.
The council will do. Yeah, they will do.
Scary.
Desiree, just on those targeted rates in the Upper Tuki flood control scheme is, and I see it's up for a consultation as a topic to consult on, is that control scheme, is it to build more resilience?
No,
In that?
sorry,
No.
it's just how how we rate for the existing cost. So we know the cost, and say there's, I think, 7,000 ratepayers. So it's an expensive scheme for a small number of ratepayers.
Yeah.
So we're looking at who benefits, who are the exacerbators and causes the need for it, and whether our existing policy settings are correct, and whether we can adjust those to be fairer. Is what we found through the last one is it was on land value and we changed it to capital value. It was 82% targeted rate, 18% general rate, and we made it 70-30. And those combined changes fell quite heavily on a certain area of the community. So we're re-looking at that and trying to make it fairer. But I might.
Oh, just that one point you missed was the simplification of the bands, if you like. There was 12 and we took it down to 3. So just a class A down to class F, I think it was. And then we just went high, medium, low. So the class A's, particularly farmland, came down quite a bit, but the houses that fell into the high risk, so like think lower Waipawa, plus the capital value change, they took quite a big hit in terms of increase.
Okay. So it came off some ratepayers and onto others, and so we're just re-looking at that to see if it was fair.
So how many workshops took place in order for the council to make its final decision? Over what breadth of time?
For the revenue and financing policy, it was 2 years. It was many.
So these weren't quick conversations.
Yeah,
They were very in-depth.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
there was always going to be winners and losers.
Yes. I mean, we've just got communities that are in the lower Tuki that were flooded. So this is a conversation that we need to be on top of if we're coming from a tai whenua, background, to ensure that when this comes to a consultation, community consultation, that we get our whānau there to talk about this. Yeah. Because obviously our whānau are not used to talking about rate rises, or coming to community drop-ins or drop-outs or consultation hui. So something that will impact them in the future. We need to be over that to get them to these public consultation. Yeah, so thank you.
Just a question, category 3, because I know, and Charlie mentioned it earlier in the kōrero, just about, because some whānau have indicated they're going to stay on their whenua, and then because they're category 3, and I'm just wondering how it impact their status in regards to rates and that. Because you get asked those questions all the time while I'm staying where I am, and what impact, but if, obviously when they get rated, then, I don't know if there's any.
I'm probably not the best person to answer that, but I will say that It's QV that sets the value of the property, and there is a delay. So the categorisation of the land will flow through to the value, the QV value of the property. So that's where it'll come down. If they're category 3, their value, they won't, they'll only be able to have productive land there, they won't be able to live there, so the value of the land will come down.
Sort of, only because, obviously they'll ask me and I'll tell them possibly to ring the council to get, because I think there's going to be a lot of mostly conversations in regards to those category 3 affected individuals that remain different if they move off, but if they remain on the whenua, then I don't know, something most of the council will need to come up with an answer with when they phone call possibly.
That's all it says.
Thank you, through you, Chair. It's a really good question, but it really is quite outside this part of the conversation and definitely not Desi's part of the specialty, but I think it's a really good question that would be worth understanding, actually, not just for Māori land, but for all of it, because as you say, that time lapse can be significant, and there are processes by which ratepayers can actually have a valuation done to update that more quickly in the system. So I think that's a good conversation, but we're probably putting staff on the spot for something that's kind of outside her specialty. Chair.
Can I ask this? One of the issues I have with the rates is just the window of paying the rates. I wonder if they can be lengthened somewhat, the window to pay it. Just that all of a sudden you get a shock, you've got a fairly large payment to make, and then sort of a small period of time to do it. I wonder if that window anything can be done with that window.
Again, I can pass that on, but I know that there is an option to pay, I pay a debt by direct credit like fortnightly or monthly, so that would spread it out. So we have a large number of people who have done that.
Oh, okay.
I think, Madam Chair, just to say, it'd be a real backward step if the level of service that's being offered up by Regional Council was reduced. Having to retain what we're doing. And I'm trying to remind myself, because there were some reports in terms of what that level of service out there look like. But, if anything, it needs to be maintained, sustained, made more resilient.
So that means you're happy to pay the 18%?
Oh, hey, like I say, mummy had to scant on it.
Geez, I'm not, but I'll still pay them, I suppose.
Thank you very much, Des.
Thank you.
Looking for a motion to receive report for the annual plan.
Happy to move.
Thank you, Mike. Second by. Thank you, Di. And all those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Carry. Awesome. We're going to move to item 8. And we're looking at the 2024 statutory advocacy and resource management reform update. No mai, piki mai, kaki mai. Kia ora, Gavin. You have 15 minutes. Sorry, that's all we've got today.
15 minutes, piece of cake. I'll give you 5. This is just a regular. This is a regular update on your Māori Committee meeting agenda packs. This month, or this cycle, it's a fairly hefty one. There's a lot going on in the central government space, which I am sure you and your groups are well and truly aware of. I'm happy to take the paper as read and just try and respond to any queries that you might have. Bearing in mind the Regional Council is not the decision maker in any of the stuff reported on in here. We're just a submitter or a participant or a passenger in these proceedings.
Just a question, Gavin. I mean, with these new proposed instruments, how do you see them with the trickle down into regional plan, RPS? How does that kind of meet?
It will be a challenging jigsaw to assemble in the coming months and years ahead, I would say. I've just come from a webinar early this morning. We've got the second bill being looking likely to be introduced into the House and go through a select committee process early next year. But this side of Christmas, there are 14 bits of national policy statements and national environmental standards that are being amended or complete new rights of national policy statements, say for infrastructure. All of those are being unveiled, it's aiming to be unveiled before Christmas. So these are a massive wad of jigsaw pieces from the puzzle landing on our desks imminently. And until they're sort of unveiled and laid out on the table, it is really difficult and challenging to clearly articulate how we, HPRC, is going to be responding to them. The devil will always be in the detail, and we just don't know the devils yet.
I guess there's a sense of override, potentially.
To some degree, but equally there's still room there for local decision making to be made at place.
Yeah, just got a question, and it come up around fast tracking and that, and I know we're with all the fast tracking legislation that's coming back, and we had some examples this morning just around that whole process, and then with the changes of the RMA, and then just the impacts, and I suppose the council's going to be managing that as in relation to, I think there's some, what is it, housing, and there's some key bullet points within that framework that they're changing. So from a monitoring perspective, would that be your role? Is that going to be your role to be working in there?
From what I understand of the intention of the amendments, not the actual words of the amendments, but the intention is that regional council and city district council will still retain responsibility for monitoring and enforcement of their RMA roles responsibilities. Monitoring enforcement of Public Works Act and various other things, that stays in other lanes.
Yep.
So it's not as if the government is attempting to override a regional council or district council's ability to do its monitoring and compliance type of job as it is.
Because when you read that paper, they're sort of supposedly saying they're going to cut some of the bureaucracy out of the process and that. When you look at some of those changes and then you look at those impacts on mana whenua in relation to being part of the process, because they might obviously lose some of their ability to engage in regards to certain developments and having impact. But as a monitor, if the council in the past monitored some of that, I suppose just interested in trying to get your head around how that's going to impact us for our long-term planning and that in relation to that. If that comes into play, and I suppose just from the discussion this morning around water storage, and there's already been some public statements already made out in the media in regards to dams and whatever, bits and pieces, and moving forward into the future, just trying to see how we manage ourselves to be better prepared to act in that space. But just reading in that paper that you've submitted and that around some of the changes and that, and I suppose for me personally, just trying to get my head around that, and I done that commissioner training years ago, but then I'm not going back there, I don't think, to do the new training, but I just see it's a wealth of new information and that for whoever takes up that space from mana whenua perspective to be engaged in working in that area. And a lot of our commissioners now that we put through that training that the Regional Council supported a number of years ago, which was really great. I acknowledge Regional Council supported our whānau to go through that training, but a lot of them are looking at it and thinking, geez, they're losing the appetite, I suppose, to re-engage and to retrain. So we're going to have a wealth of commissioners that don't come through in that Māori space now that we're going into the raft of changes that, I think we all agree that it's a big area and there's a void. So just sort of comment on that, because obviously the change, you work in that area, and then our whānau that do that as a part-time role that they commit to working, and then we see it's a huge drop-off of their knowledge that's not going to come through in the next year, because they've looked at the changes and said, oh gee, it's huge for us to relearn that. So it's just a point. I think Katara, I know you've done training, we've done training, there was a group of us that done all that training, and yeah, it's just going to lead a void. And you done the training as well, eh?
Makes me wonder whether it's worth anything, because, just through what has happened with the Holy Trinity, Brown, Bishop and Jones, they've actually given that responsibility over to the EPA. I mean, when I look at what came out of the, now gone COVID-19 Emergency Act, on which fast-track applications went through, the EPA come out and they, of course, they apply conditions that then we got to undertake. And they're not easy. So here's a body sitting in Wellington, under this fast-track legislation, they removed all treaty and very little environmental protection. So, and yet under our rules, here, it's just, well, how the hell is it going to fit? Anyway, how's it going to fit?
Councillor Sims, comment?
Thank you, through you, Chair. Gavin, the fast track legislation, just clarifying, it's something that Di mentioned this morning. There's no right of appeal to the Environment Court for those applications. As I understand, that was one question. Yeah. And the second question is there any more information on how those hearings, committees or panels that will assess them will be established? I know there were some changes made, but has that been locked in?
The Select Committee report and some announcements have been made by the relevant ministers, but that is all yet to be reconsidered or considered any further by Parliament through its second and third reading processes. So until some of these sort of ministerial announcements are locked and loaded into black and white legislation, it's somewhat in the air.
You kind of know where it's
going.
Degree
of certainty that it's heading in a certain direction, but it's certainly not locked and loaded and confirmed law right now. In terms of formation of panels, I guess that's sort of still a live conversation. General direction of travel is that there'll be a head selector, I suppose, for one of a sporting analogy, a head selector of who's going to be in the squad, because each fast-track application project is going to have its own nuances. Some might require engineering technical expertise, others might require more legal or ecological. So you have to pull together a pretty top-notch panel for each particular project, and that's for the chief selector. I think you're a court judge, retired judge, is the calibre of the selector. It's earmarked. That's going to be a big ask for them. But all of that, as I say, is still to work through Parliament's second and third reading protocols.
Any more queries or comments for Gavin?
Just a point, because the 101, I suppose, from general members of the public, they see industry and business having a lot more sway in regards to where things are going from the changes in the RMA, and for Māori it's a lessening of, I suppose, them involved in the process with the changes. I'm just saying that's just, when you look at a perspective in the changes, just summarising what's in the report, it's how you, I suppose, for PSGs and other groups, how they factor into the equation to say, hey, there's a new system happening, and you look at Mr Jones over in Australia last week or 2 weeks ago, and they talked to those mining companies and that, and then obviously minerals and that. So yeah, it's, I suppose that's how you sort of see when you look through all the jargon and that. That's what you see getting implemented.
If I may, just following on from, where does that commissioner training sit? Just a word of caution and warning, because if the composition of these panels are going to be made up and they just happen to pick on a Māori person who's got a cultural background and you arrive onto that committee, you've actually got to forego all of your connection back down to, your rights, your interests, when there's no provision within what the fast track is promoting. And so you're a loner, and it could be very culturally unsafe.
Kia ora, Madam Chair. This is not so much a question for Gavin, but just something for us to take note of. Changes to the RMA Amendment Bill number 2, I just noticed here, concerning housing growth. a new national direction for public climate development. So I suppose we need to watch the space. Got it.
Thank you, Kevin. Oh, did you got a comment?
I can just briefly outline what I know of that particular proposal. There have been calls up and down the country that many of the district plans are rather restrictive for Papakāinga housing. And so this particular package of proposals is looking at making those district plan provisions more lenient in appropriate places. But we need to be careful that some of those developments are in indeed appropriate places, not at-risk locations, and they're adequately serviced and various other things. So it's finding the right balance as to how permissive, with some restrictions, the amendments could be. And again, as I say, this will be one of many threads that gets unveiled just prior to Christmas with current government momentum.
And I did see they've increased the space size, though, from 30 square metres for small dwelling on people's around the consent process to 60 square metres. But then, I suppose the upshot of that, you still need consent when you go for plumbing. So they've increased the spatial size. But
It's the granny flat proposal.
Yeah, so
Units, yes.
I suppose a lot of people think, oh, you can drop a granny flat straight on the back, property of your whare, and without going through a consent process, but then you'll have to get a consent for the plumbing anyway. So it negates that, because I've had a few people ring us about doing Papakāinga, whares on the Kaumatua flats at the back of their houses, but then we said, check through the detail, because then you still need consent for plumbing. Hey, good in practice, but I suppose, good in theory, but when you put it into practice, it's sort of, doesn't work. For those that are thinking of dropping granny flats and filling your parents' it's still...
And there are long drops anymore,
No, go into the house to use the long drop. So, thanks, Kevin.
Thank you, Kevin. What a myriad of statutory updates that we're facing. I'd like to move on to the next item. And just looking for a mover to receive this report, to receive the statutory.
I'll move that report.
Thank you, Di. Second by, thank you, Peter. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Kia ora. So we're just looking at the update of the regional climate change risk assessment. It's item 10.
We're just introducing Jack and Amberley to the table for this item today. If we may take the paper as read, essentially this update is around the Māori workstream or Māori engagement component of the work that the Joint Climate Action Committee is doing, as it's a matter of interest to this committee. We wanted to bring an update about that to you today.
Tēnā koutou I te rangatira o te rohi. Tuatahi ngā mihi ki a koe Baden mō tō karakia me mihi I tina iata. Ngā mihi ki a koe api mō tō karakia I runga o tātou kai. Just a reminder on who I am, called Jack Smith Ballingle, tōku ingoa. He pauahurea I Wanganui o te rohe. E mahi ana hau ki te kanihira aurui I te hononga Māori. Ngā mihi ki a koutou. I'll just hand over to Amberley to introduce herself as well.
Tēnā koutou katoa, no Ingarangi o Kutipuna, heoi no te mātua Māui ahau. Kei hera tonga ahau e noho ana, kei kona hera a rohe o te mātua Māui ahau e mahi ana. Gibson, toku whānau, ko Amberley, toku wangawa. Tēnā koutou, tēnā koutou, tēnā tātou.
Tēnā pe Amberley.
To open, climate change is a phenomenon that affects all of us, all communities, and is a priority of this council and has been indicated as a priority of this committee as well. And therefore, the Māori Partnership team have been working with the Joint Climate Joint Action Committee and their technical advisory group led by Ambly here, to ensure that a Te Ao Māori perspective is input into the governance table and also the work that has fallen out and been directed by the committee as well. The first piece of that mahi is that has been directed by the committee is an assessment of the risks in the region, broken down by district. And Ambly, as the lead, has been invited to give a bit of background as to how that piece of work was commissioned and what that means. So I'm just going to hand over to Ambly to give us that.
Thanks, Jack. Yes, as Jack said, the purpose is really to give you this update. It's been overseen by the Climate Action Joint Committee. So I've been here at HBRC since July. The Climate Action Joint Committee met in August. And at the meeting, we had direction from the Joint Committee to do what is phase 1 of this regional climate change risk assessment. It's the starting point for future work, but there was that real sense of urgency and the importance of this work and the need for us to kind of get moving so that we can keep that momentum, keep progressing. So this first phase is largely, I think the paper notes, a desktop exercise, in that it focuses on bringing together all the existing data and information, like brings together a cohesive picture of what do we know about how climate change is going to impact our region and affect us in every sense. So all the things that matter to us. So it has been taken, this assessment has been undertaken based on what is available. And I guess there was recognition at that committee meeting that risk assessments, climate change risk assessments are an iterative process. So this is the first one, it's the starting point, and it is something that we will look to revisit as more data becomes available, as our understandings change too. And there was a real acknowledgement too of some of the data gaps we have. So that's not unique to us here in Hawke's Bay, that's a national challenge, it's an international challenge as well. But we have to start somewhere, and one of the outcomes that we're really seeking through this work is we've got pockets of information, but we don't have that cohesive picture, and our community doesn't have that cohesive picture without this piece of work. So we're certainly not the first to be doing something like this. There are many other regional climate change risk assessments that have been undertaken across the country, and district level assessments too. As Jack mentioned, the output of this phase 1 will be a public-facing report, so it will be a shared evidence base and piece of information for all of our communities and its decision makers, for councils, for governors. So yeah, really, that's the key thing we were getting to there, was having something that was public-facing with all that information. So to date, I guess there's a bit of an update. We have been really focused since August on getting that data and information and undertaking that assessment. And then just actually on Monday, we held a practitioner workshop with a range of staff and Lifelines, and our joint committee members, tangata whenua members, were able to attend that too. And then we ground truth that, I guess, with what was coming through with that draft assessment. So I would say that the assessment is very much still underway. We don't yet have an output from that assessment, but we are getting a sense of what those key themes are that are coming through, and there will be an update to the Climate Action Joint Committee on that on the 18th of November, so in about 10 days. Our Māori Partnerships Kaimahi from across the 5 councils attended these workshops. We actually held 2, just the value of being able to get everyone in that room, so it was really great. We are still receiving some data sets as well. And yeah, so I guess that next milestone for the project is this meeting on the 18th with the Joint Committee. And then with the project milestone for this first phase is to that output is that report next year. So we're looking around early March, we're aiming for that. Yeah, I will pass to Jack in a second to speak a little bit more about that approach we're taking, but I guess I would reiterate that this assessment is high level. So regional climate change risk assessments, there's guidance from the Ministry for the Environment on how we undertake these. They don't go down to a property level, they're not that granular. They look at our regional risks, they take a whole region view, but our report will have a district level breakdown. So we will start to see a picture of how we may experience these risks, or what those risks could look like over time, and how that could be felt and experienced differently across our region. I guess some examples of that could be around, give you a sense of the granularity, say we might know in Central Hawke's Bay, under a certain hazard, if we experience a certain kind of event, we might know that, this is a made up figure, but 80% of our stormwater assets would be exposed in that event. And we can start to quantify that, what that risk looks like to us. The report is looking at risks across 6 domains. So there are 5 kind of standard domains that are in the National Climate Change Risk Assessment. So those are natural environment, built environment, human, economic, governance. And for our report, we have also added an iwi Māori domain, so we wanted to draw that out. Like I said, future versions will include updated data sets. There's a huge amount of data being produced in this region at the moment in the wake of the cyclone, and I guess there was a decision there that we could always wait for more data, but let's start with what we do know as a starting point, and we can look to update it as more information becomes available. But as I said, it's that first one, it's that foundational piece, and it's really the starting point for future work. So that's a bit of a summary. Jack, was there anything you wanted to add?
Yes, we made the assumption that this committee would be interested in what a Te Ao Māori input would look like to a regional risk assessment. So I just wanted to walk you through some of the Māori Partnerships team's rationale and ultimately the advice that we gave. Unfortunately, there is no funding on the Climate Joint Action Committee for a Te Ao Māori practitioner or expert to input information at this stage. And there's also no budget set aside by the committee to reimburse a Māori Taiao practitioners.
Jack, do they see that not as important?
No, they do. They understand that it's definitely needed, but I guess a lot of the formation of the committee to date has been around.
Jack, just to correct, if we go back 20 or 30 years ago when a lot of us sat around these tepus and we had done all this mahi for nothing, we just done that, that's what we've done, but we can't take a backward step when we've evolved so far into the future, because it's just what it sounds like in your kōrero when they're not resourcing. I'm just saying, because we've all been there over a number of years and we've done this mahi, so yeah, I suppose just that point you're saying, it just does concern me.
Yes, absolutely. I'll pass it to Wai to respond to that.
Through you, Chair.
Not to get you anything, it's good you're having those open and frank conversations, because that's what we hear about.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've all been there in the past and we don't want to go back 30 or 40 years.
Points taken, Peter. Absolutely. Through the work of the Joint Climate Action Committee, this first tranche of the process to pull together this desktop exercise of the climate risk assessment requirements, it was determined that the Māori Partnerships team would attend and support the Technical Advisory Group, which is an operational group of the councils, in this first piece, through the tangata whenua reps, which have been appointed across the PSGs, and this Māori committee table has 3 representatives. There is absolutely ability for them to be remunerated and engaged appropriately for interaction in those workshops. So just for this first tranche here, the paper outlines that that's the approach that has been taken, is that the Māori Partnerships staff across the 5 councils will support and assist the Technical Advisory Group to pull together that first step. There will be further pieces of work that will come as conversations within that Joint Climate Action Committee continue to grow and progress as we reach different stages of the risk needs assessments.
Yeah, and I do see one of Manahi, we've got reps on there, so hence, yeah, we'll share those conversations.
Yeah, thank you.
and apologies, I probably should have started with how the input is, Te Ao Māori perspective is being input into the committee, and I'm sure once this piece of work is presented back, they will discuss what phase 2 looks like, and that is around prioritisation of risk and adaptation, which they have indicated that there will be community consultation for that. But given the committee is quite new, I think the first body of work has been around discussing what is their place, what is the committee's remit, and where they want to start. So this is, to wrap it up, just the beginning.
Any comments
I
on
just
that?
want to,
sorry.
sorry, Madam Chair, just the possibility of the Māori Standing Committee in the Wairau District Council, where we're like this committee, and that next week is our last week for the year. I was wondering at the possibility of this paper, or you presenting this to our committee. It's next Tuesday morning. And what's the possibility of that occurring?
What am I?
Thank you.
There's the boss right there.
We do have 2 representatives on the Climate Action Joint Committee who are Mayor Craig Little and Councillor Roslin. What we will need to do is just talk amongst officers as to the practicality of whether that can be achieved, but I'm happy to take that as a point and come back to you.
Lovely.
Dwayne?
If it suits this committee, ngā mihi mahana ki a koutou. Tēnei mea angetu kātou ki mua tuka te aroaro tēnei a. If it suits the committee, and if there's a scope for it, for this paper, even if Jack sends us a one-pager, I can present that on your behalf. It's just more to populate it, not to discuss it. We are aware of who's on the committee, but they're not sure whether they'll be actually present at the meeting next week. So if it suits the committee that perhaps Jack or Emily can present us with a one-page overview, we can just populate it with our committee. I think that's what the request is coming from the chair. But kei a koutou te tika.
Thank you for clarity. Mare, were you going to follow on up?
Kia ora. Tēnei te mihi te tēnā korua o tō koutou ata hoa miro e pāna me ki te climate change kei mui a tātou. So I know this is an assessment, and you've indicated that it's going to probably feed into a number of other parts, and hence my question a little early on about Hawke's Bay Regional Council rates and the level of service, and that's going to be, of course, attributed by all the various councils that are contributing towards this, and the level of service in terms of what impact it may well do. And let's face it, it's going to be more frequent, and so you've got to be reaching deep into your pocket. I guess the thing about assessment is that it'll inform things, and I guess for me, I'm just wondering, is there a plan, or is that the plan? It'll just feed into a number of different parts to inform with the best of data, the best of information for others to make a decision, as opposed to a plan and an implementation around that. So that's kind of where I'm starting with. The natural built environment part to it all, in terms of, if I just pick on that, say for example, stormwater, flood control, and just kind of putting the periscope back down, or up, or the microscope down in terms of Te Ao Māori contribution into the space, as our communities, along with everyone else, were heavily impacted. And given that there are a lot of insights that have contributed towards their experience of what happened with Gabriel, that kind of input into future co-designing and engineering. I'm just wondering, how far does this thing reach down to in terms of what Te Ao Māori, and our perspective, in terms of co-design, a co-conversation with each other, as far as what that assessment could really mean for a community that's been struck. They've got a story and they'd like to actually influence this particular assessment and prioritise some of these things that are going on. You know, we all want to prioritise, it's got to happen in my space at this point in time, and we just know we have to equate it across a whole region. But those would be probably first burning question for me.
Through you, Chair, if I could just address first, I think opportunities like this to raise those burning questions are a good place for us to put them on the table and have them recorded first. Definitely points of discussion for that joint climate action committee as well, because these are the conversations that we need to have regionally. So I think that's probably the first. There may have been some operational technical pieces that you could address in that.
Yes, yes, certainly. I think what you've touched, I think at the heart there is that prioritisation conversation and the need for this to be with our communities. So that's a very, that is the reason why this assessment is within the scope that it is it doesn't go as far as there's not a plan or the recommendations for action, because without this evidence base, without understanding the range of impacts, what all the information is telling us when we bring it together as a whole, it's really challenging for the communities, and we've heard this from other regions who have done this work. It's really challenging for us as a region and as a district and in our communities to have that prioritisation conversation, and we have to have that conversation together. So absolutely hear you, and then that's why we'll do this first piece, and then there are decisions for the joint committee to take once the report is finalised about that risk prioritisation conversation and the action with our communities.
Has anyone, I guess when we're looking at a Te Ao Māori worldview in terms of what climate change is about, has anyone raised, I mean, when we get to look at what that contribution is coming from the natural environment, we've got this whakapapa relationship with each other. And I'm just wondering how this committee and its framework and at a starting point gives effect in that way, because we were asking about a Te Ao Māori worldview or a Te Ao Māori input on this, and for us it would start at whakapapa. I mean, unfortunately, all the great atua that turned out for Gabriel reminded us who the mana was. That was the mana o te wai, te mana o te hau, and who those respectful deities are in that realm. Because we've got this strong relationship between celestial and terrestrial, and I mean, we do harm and the activities that are on, it's really a position of do no further harm to the environment, because the environment is our whānau, and it's got that whakapapa, you know, and here we are as a regulator in the regional council, basically prescribing rules, policies, and this is why I'm on guard on behalf of my marae hapu whānau in terms of ensuring we do not do further harm, because we do further harm to the environment, we're doing further harm to ourselves, you know. So I don't know how, you know, where to start in terms of what part of Te Ao Māori do you want input on?
And as Jack and Te Wairama said, that's the support that the Māori partnership teams and across the 5 councils have been giving us in this first phase of work. And I guess I'll give you some insight to some of the kōrero we had on Monday, and we talked about, you know, biodiversity loss and what that means in terms of the risks, but we talked about it as, you know, as you all know, the loss of mahinga kai sites and the loss of that intergenerational knowledge and cultural practice. Like, these are the kind of risks that actually are changing. That's the data you're talking about, absolutely. So these are the kind of conversations we're having together. So
cool.
And just further to that kōrero, our role isn't to give that Te Ao Māori perspective, but to point out where that Te Ao Māori perspective needs to be sought out and from who. And this committee and the representation that is on this committee that is represented on the Climate Joint Action Committee is one of many places.
Watch this space.
At our next meeting next year, can you give us an example of that?
I think we'll add it at your next meeting. Do you know what month? Of what month?
March.
5th of March. So that will be around the same time that the Climate Action Joint Committee will be receiving that final report. So we can take that away and work out. We will certainly come back to you with an update just around timings, around what we will be able to present back to you at that meeting and how that relates to what's also going to the Climate Action Joint Committee at the same time. But absolutely, we'll come back to you in the new year.
Could I suggest as part of that process that there is probably an interview process for those that were impacted quite heavily in terms of our communities? And as a contribution towards that, I'm pretty sure that, it will come up with some of the data sets that you may be missing to validate or even evidence the fact that because of the climate change, it reduced this, it taken this thing away. What sort of evidence do you need from us? I mean, where does it go? I'm just a little bit vague up in the air a little bit, so just digging down a bit.
I guess the short answer to that would be that when we spoke in August about options for this first assessment, the committee did consider taking a longer time to do this assessment to enable that kind of engagement, and the decision from the joint committee there was to do this first piece so that we have a starting point. So we are able to then have these conversations. Yeah. It's not to say that we won't have those conversations, it's just that it's going to happen in phase 2, and recognising that these risk assessments are iterative. This is the first one, it's the starting point. It will be updated, and particularly given the scale of data being produced in the wake of the cyclone and other severe weather events in this region, the time frame for which we would look to update risk assessments, I couldn't give you a time frame on what that would be. That's a decision for the joint committee, but it would be, I would suggest, sooner perhaps than in a standard time frame, given the level of data and information. So,
Kia ora, Madam Chair. I see the importance of collating this information. For me, though, I'm more concerned about the future. What should we be doing to mitigate all these issues that we're confronting with climate change? A couple of weeks ago, there were some locals in the paper here talking about Bluff Hill, about using one of the schools up there to cater for up to 10,000 people if a tsunami was coming. When we look at our own people, our maraes, I can only think of, say, Waipatu at this stage, Waiheke now, who would be able to be recognised as a safe haven for people who are caught out. So that would be my concern. If we look at what's happened over in Valencia in Spain, that water that came through that street, and unfortunately people got caught in the underground car parks, and that's why they had so many fatalities. But Gabriel was 10 times worse than that. They say that the water that came through East Valley was the size of the Amazon River. That's how much water came through that.
Oh, it's huge.
Yeah. So I'm more concerned about the future, and every day, every week, every month counts, because climate change is here right now, as we know.
So just a snapshot, because it took me a while to get my head around climate change and that, and then it's the volume of water that's deposited at a point in time that we're trying to manage that risk around, because we have rain, but it's, I suppose, the severity. That's how I diagnosed climate change easily. I thought, that cup's going to fill up 10 times faster than normal. So, and then when you're getting your planning, your head around trying to plan for an event like that, very difficult to think, how do you channel all that water into area? So it'd be interesting to see, what modelling comes up to try and manage that, because mostly really difficult to do, isn't it? All that water coming in at one overnight, and the example that Upper used over in Europe, is catastrophic for the community.
Okay, through the chair, I think one of the benefits of doing this piece of work is that the intent is to give visibility to the full range of climate risks we'll experience. So you're right, climate change, it's quite hard to sometimes understand what do we mean when we say that what the impacts are, and you're right, it's increasing the severity and frequency of these events and changing weather variability. But with these kind of assessments, we're not just looking at those extreme weather events, but also that chronic long-term change that will happen over time, and what kind of impacts that will have, and the different ways that will impact everything we kind of assume about our way of life and the assumptions we have as well. So,
Did the Cape Coast study, the Hastings District Council, about 5-6 years ago. That was about communities that from Clifton, they're right down to Tangoil. So, I mean, we've already started to think about impact of ocean inundation, tsunami, te mea. I think a Māori, Mātauranga Māori view of climate change, I think that's an important kōrero. Hey, because we have that kōrero, and unfortunately, you know, we've had to experience some real catastrophic take here in our rohe. But I know, you know, we've looked at things from a ao Māori point of view, whether it was the wastewater system at Clive. Hey, there's a whole kōrero Mātauranga Māori around this. Yeah. Waiaroha. Yeah. So we've got examples of
resilience.
And our people, that's just the way we think about these things. So yeah, I'm interested to see what comes out of the Mātauranga Māori kōrero. But you've got people around this table that, you know, have kind of been through a lot of that. Different horopaki,
That's right, absolutely. Just one thing, before we lose sight of the other biggie that's on our back doorstep, it's the Hukurangi subduction zone and the frequency of earthquakes that have been carrying on at the same time. So, I mean, they're very much up there at the same point with each other. Just didn't think that we need to just kind of look at just what the effects, and I mean, they're really heavy and potential impacts. We're going into this El Nino season, and already there are forecasts about, you know, they're trying to put their radar out to at least Christmas, and looking at all of the southern hemisphere, northern hemisphere interconnects in terms of warm stream pressure, and even those things are on our radar. But just want to just remind ourselves that not too far out here is the Hukurangi subduction zone, and of course on the frequency of earthquakes that are happening down in Porongahau. If you go onto your site, you will see, you know, the whole range of this going right up to Whakaari. So those are really, so emergency management and the sort of retreat preparation things are just as important too as well in this conversation, knowing that the impact has been created through events.
This is our climate change and managers in Porongahau. It's about everyone gets all the information they need off the telephone. We're into reading what's happening almost day by day these days. That's how much things have changed, to see what the weather's doing, where it's doing it, why it's doing it. There's a tremendous effect on what we do out there, actually, because we want to go out to sea.
Okay. Thank you, Jack, and
Kia ora. I'll move that, Madam Chair.
Yeah, I'll second that. And just, I know it's really important, a conversation. That's why we've gone to a little bit more depth. We all know it's going to affect us. It's affecting our maraes, the impacts on our maraes. Our maraes are still not open now. So we're quite aware that it's a very important corridor for us moving forward. So, just a mihi for your mahi that you're doing as well. Thank you.
Kia ora, this paper's been moved by Mare, second by Pete. All those in favour say aye.
Aye.
Kia ora, carried. And our last topic, last item for the day, but not least, hailing from Rongomai Wahine, Mahia Mai Tawhiti.
Madam Chair, I've got to be excused. I apologise, and I'll withdraw that item that was on my, minor items.
Kei te pai will say that the minor items will be responded to in a report anyway. I'd like to welcome Rawa ko Nathan, ko reira tēnā kōrero.
Tēnā tātou e karangatira. Ko Nathan, he's tōku ingoa. I've got the easy job today. I'm really only here to introduce Mariah from Rongomai Wahine Iwi Trust. Mariah is the tile program lead, and and is, how long have you been there now? About a year. And very much taking the Te Puna Waiora or Nukutu Taurua Kaiwa plan for Mahia forward and turning it into actions on the ground. So I'll let Mariah introduce herself and lead you through the plan that they've done so far.
Ka koe Mariah.
Tēnā koutou katoa. Ko Mariah Tērangi Māori e Margaret Winterburn Anaru tōku ingoa. And it is an honour to stand before Council today representing our Rongamawahine Māhia Freshwater Plan. It's our stride in our journey towards restoring our Māori and the unbalance of our ecosystem. So the whakapapa of Te Puna Waiora o Nukataurua, with the support of the MFE, we wove together Te Puna Waiora o Nukataurua over 3 years. And the journey encompassed numerous wānanga, engaging with farmers and landowners, crafting workbooks for our catchment leaders, mapping, water testing, undertaking eDNA sampling. And the plan recognises that our wai is far more than just a resource, it is our taonga. For centuries, our ancestors had navigated these waterways, deeply attuned to their intrinsic bond with our past, present and future. It is only fitting that we, the current generation, tread the same path laid before us. Through the plan, we observed alarming rates of erosion along our stream and riverbanks, resulting in high sedimentation that settled into our catchments. It's diminished habitats for our native species, which is nurtured by mahia. The Māori of our wai is essential for the survival of these species and the overall vitality of our ecosystem. Just an overview of mahia. Sorry, I don't have this thingy. We've got 18 main streams, 48 streams with tributaries. Our freshwater is in a range of different ways, of wetlands, springs, aquifers, a little bit of geothermal, and 28 stream outlets to the ocean. Our wai is sensitive to erosion, fertiliser, E. coli, silt, sedimentation, stream bank collapse, forest debris and what comes out of holiday homes and our residential when we get smashed in holiday times. Why am I here? My goal is to express our deep commitment for our taiao, but to advocate for stronger environmental policies in mahia and for how our whenua and our wai is used, particularly focusing on the protection of our freshwater resources, balancing our ecosystem and fostering collaboration between regional and mahia community. I don't know how to do it. Have the clicky?
Me.
You're just going to have to That's all right, just leave it up.
Okay.
On the photo on the first slide. So through the plan, we had heartfelt discussions with our whānau and we identified key elements for revitalising the Māori of our ecosystem. And I just want to invite feedback from and wisdom as we combine the Western science with mātauranga, or we attempt to. The plan is put together with being broken up into 12 catchments, and that's based on our ecological biodiversity. And I aspire for all of our catchments to harmonise with regional council, long-term planning, and honouring our tipuna, really, of these waterways. But if there's any questions real quick, I could answer, and then kind of, if anyone wants to get a better picture of the plan, I think it's on page 45 with you. And we've also got 3 of the native forest in Hawke's Bay, the last coastal forest.
Sorry, the last coastal forest.
There's 3?
Three of them.
In New Zealand. In Mahia.
Mahia, please.
Just for members of this committee, the presentation is in your Stella. It's separate to the agenda. It's saved as an attachment. Kia ora.
Question? Dai.
Kia ora. Kia ora, lovely to meet you and have your presentation. Just a question, do you work with Anna in tātou?
So we're under the umbrella of tātou, but 3 years ago when we reached out for this funding, I don't know if other kahui were set up to do taiao, so we're just a bit ahead, so we're kind of just into these next steps, implementing on the ground, trying to restore. But yeah, we will have a lot to do with ana.
Any other questions?
No, just to support the mahi. Always important to look after our environment and increase the biodiversity. So yeah, we can always support community projects that are working within that space. So job well done up in mahi. Mauri ora.
Thank you.
Kia ora.
Ora. Inari?
Just, you know, this morning I was bemoaning the fact that all the wānanga we've had to do out at Rākaipaka and how jaded we've become. I was wondering who facilitated your wānanga in terms of this?
So we had, over 3 years, we had different people come in from different backgrounds. Hannah Coop from the farming background. We had Auntie Wani, Symes Blake. We had Nolan Maru, and I'm not too... And Simon Hunter, who is our consultant and report maker. Yeah.
I think that's the difference.
In terms of the engagement with the farming community, hei te pēhea tērā.
Main people, main farming companies who buy into us, but a good chunk that no engagement.
Yeah.
The plan is kind of set. It's in both pathways. It's in the community eyes and the landowner eyes. But I want to work together with council to, create an iwi hapu management plan maybe. Yeah.
Boy.
Councillor Sears?
Thank you, through you, Chair Mariah. It's really lovely to see the work and also to see that it's a real partnership with Hawke's Bay Regional Council. So a little bit similar to Baden. Has it really been led by the Regional Council, sort of the rural teams and to farmers back to you, or has the community and is it you personally, have you kind of driven that with Regional Council? But I'm quite interested in how that dynamic's been so successful.
My contract was solely brought in for council relationships, building as many relationships as we can with external organisations even.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah.
I can probably answer a little bit through the Chair. Totally driven by Rongoма Wahine and the project. They had formed a steering group that comprised representation from landowners, community, iwi, whānau. And so that guided the direction that the project took. It's like anywhere in the Northern Hawke's Bay, it's been a hard couple of years to organise wānanga with people fully participating, and there has been some gaps. I think you've well acknowledged that. And I suppose the challenge for something like this is when you're trying to keep it in a community space, but you are an iwi leading that. You end up sort of in middle ground that you don't fully represent what your iwi voice necessarily wants to represent, and you're also trying to represent a community at the same time. And they've had to navigate that all the way through. And we've had meetings today even with the planning and policy people around the direction that the plan can take to help inform kotahi but probably more so represent the voice of Rongoma Wahine Iwi Trust going forward. So that's more work to do going forward. But I think that one of the most impressive things about the plan is that all of these plans are fine on paper. They need to have actions alongside them, and they need to have goals that the community's agreed upon and ideas about how to get there. And this plan has those in spades all the way through it. So, Marae is right in terms of where these plans are in Wairau. Rongoma Wahine has got a long way in front of the game at the moment. There's a little bit of retrofitting to get it back towards where it can support kotahi and things like that. But it's been an awesome bit of work.
Yeah, sounds like it. Kia ora, thank you.
Kia ora Mariah, through you, Chair. What have been your challenges? Because this is a big bit of work.
Yeah, it's, I think I got told the other day, focus on one thing at a time. And even if you've got so many, the whole place has got all these problems, just focus on the one, and it leads on, kind of thing. Well, that's hard to say, but so we're trying to like learn about the catchments and trying to get our science in and stuff like that. But nah, you just need to take a step back with the community. Just being with the community, they will lead you. They know their rohe, that little village, really well. Yeah.
And at the same time, what have been the biggest rewards with the mahi that you're doing?
Connecting to it, and I think I can bring more kaitiaki to it, to our whenua kind of thing.
Some of the kōrero from the kaumātua though, eh?
Yeah.
And the wānanga. I mean,
It's amazing.
Yeah, the richness of when you were out driving around at a particular site and then the layers just keep coming out. It's been really awesome.
For you, Mr. Ellis, could you call that Māori science?
Almost, say Western and Māori science. I don't know. It's still like I feel like not other many iwi have. There are some who have reached this stage, but it's still so new. So it's where do we go?
Just a comment. Congratulations out of all the kāhui and tātou o te wāro. Between Rākai Parker and Rongomai Wahine, you're leading the way for us, and it's really awesome. And I've watched your wānanga grow over the years. Happened to be out there at the time with people going up to whangawi and seeing the excitement. We're in another hui and we're like looking, wanting to be engaged. And you've been hearing about your wānanga, so kia kaha, thank you for your sharing your challenges and your rewards and things like that, and have faith and ngā mihi kia koe.
Through you, Chair, tēnā koe rā koutou Rongomai Wahine, kua Māori mai tēnei ki Wanganui a tātou, so thank you for coming here. Another driver for Mariah in her presentation to this committee today is a response to the feedback that this committee gave that you wanted to receive both items from a regional council table and items from Māori members of our community. One tono that Mariah has made to this committee whether there are any suggestions for improvement or any recommendations to the process that has happened and that may continue from here. And one tono from me on behalf of Mariah, mina kei te paitira, if that's okay, is if there are any thoughts or further feedback or commentary if from this committee post this hui, if you were comfortable to direct it to me and we can get that through to Mariah.
No.
Just, I suppose an answer to that, it'd be nice to have a annual report as to how well you're going.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, so give us the opportunity to monitor your growth and development, so we can sit here envious. Kia ora.
Through you, Chair. I was just thinking, with what you're achieving at the moment, and when you're leading a space, is there opportunity to share to others, you know, in regards to your learning and your pathway that you've taken? Because in the same way that you've had those challenges, those will be the same challenges that we'll meet in our own catchment, no doubt, you know, and working towards the same things, you know, engaging with whenua Māori, whānau Māori and farmers, you know, and what those tensions can be. So I think, you know, in that same way that we can benefit from you blazing the pathway at the moment. So yeah, if you're able to and open to sharing when you're engaged or approached would be really awesome.
I'm sure I'd be happy to come back and share milestones even and presentate for that kind of thing. Yeah, but for other sharing knowledge, getting it uproar in our Wairo area, on the Taiao committee, we present and we share our milestones with that. So, but I'll be so happy to come up here and share and.
Through the chair, one of the observations I probably made is for us as Hawke's Bay Regional Council, it's a really fine balancing act how much influence we have in these processes. And I think in an example like Nukatoro, the plan for Mahia, the relationships, the partnerships need to be within the community, not necessarily with us. And so I think what's been really beneficial here is we've just been on the sidelines providing that kōrero, the support when we've been asked for it, but otherwise we've just kept in the background. And so it is about the community coming together, working together to get the outcomes that they want. We're there to help, but we don't want to be the driver. We don't want to be setting the direction on these things. And I think that's been one of the benefits of this as well. Yeah.
Well, thank you very much for your presentation today. I really appreciate that, and for your time coming in, both you and Nathan.
Yeah.
Nō reira, tēnā rā kōrua. Rest of our afternoon is just left with minor items, and I've spoken with Te Wairama regarding our minor items. Oh, yes, beg pardon. Second mover for Te Puna Waiora o Nuku Taurua. Moved by Taia, second by Paura. All those in favour say aye. Aye. Kia ora. It's carried. So I'm going to move to minor items. It is item 12, and I understand that Councillor Sears and councillors may be leaving, leaving the meeting.
We've just got another meeting at 3, Chair.
That's 3.
Yeah.
Okay, so I was talking to Te Wairama earlier regarding our these minor items. I'm going to put it to you, Te Wairama, you might read it better than me.
Tēnā koe, through you, Chair. At the opening of our hui, some items were raised for the purpose of minor items. It has been determined that those can't be responded to by the staff as they're not here. Officers aren't here to respond to that at the moment, and there would be some time required to put together what we will...
Carry on.
Yeah. What we will request is just to run through the list of items that were put forward and comments for clarification, after which I can take that away and prepare responses for this committee.
So are those all the items? Because I know I raised a couple, so is there one around procurement?
Yes, the review on the procurement policy.
Yeah, comments for clarification, just if there are further comments for clarification.
Because I think from a board that was quite an important one, because we all agreed that, a statement was made by the CEO at the time, and then if that hasn't been implemented, I would have concern. Well, I would have concern. As everyone else, we have a concern on this.
Yep. If that could be presented back to the committee at our next...
Well, that's not till next year. So can we get an answer back before next year?
Yeah, happy to...
email.
Collate the information required to respond to that and present it to the committee as soon as it's available.
Okay, another one was regarding big water storage. It was Matua Roger Marker. It's called it all. And water security. And Māori...
withdrew his. He withdrew his.
We withdrew it because he left, but I think that would still sit on the minor item schedule because
I'd say so, because it's around the treaty principles and the Māori electoral role and the Local Government Act, local authorities, and then the other item was around the Upper Mohaka Collective.
Yeah, no, and I'll follow that up. Sorry, with the man, because I know he might be on that Mohaka group, but I'll give him a call because he contacted me, but I'll contact him back for further. And it's just there, I suppose, when you look at Upper Mohaka, it's a big catchment within this area. It's all Māori whenua up the top end, and so that collective is huge, in capacity wise in that Mohaka and Reefer River. And I know they've just all had the AGMs just in the last 3 weeks, and they had kōrero about the catchment and that. And and no different to what was raised before about all our catchments. And now I think someone raised earlier about that big collective of Māori whenua and those upper catchments, and it may be a wider conversation as well to involve those catchments, because our catchments go right up to 2 feet tall. And Kahununu, so it might be a bigger conversation because we've got big land, or those blocks have got big land holdings in those catchment areas. Yep.
And then there was at the very end was the wider update on the awa, flood modelling protection and the Wairau Bar.
So if I may just confirm with this committee, there's a request for clarification and confirmation around a commitment to enabling Māori procurement within a procurement policy and the monitoring for that, the measurements of
It
the
was just on,
targets.
in James's Palmer, when he was CEO, he made a commitment to the committee. That was my understanding. I think other members voiced it in the kōrero that we had in the pre-meet. And then, you know, got confused because then there was a comment that hasn't been implemented. But then we discussed this, I think about 6 months ago, then a KPI, and that was going to get presented back to us. But then to be told that that wasn't implemented, then it's confused me because, you know, we'd discuss that. So if we can get clarification, because it totally changes us, I think, for a lot of the members, what was said and what's been done, because it may not have been done, but yeah.
So an
it's
update
around
for
that, and
clarification.
then because the KPI will follow that kōrero, because if it hasn't been implemented, that means there'll be no KPI attached to that policy. But that would be correct, yep.
Kia ora. We'll provide an update for clarification. A request for further information around water storage, water security projects. And there was a discussion around this tipu at an earlier stage of our hui around the 2003 Water Security Report and an engagement strategy for mana whenua involvement in water security mahi. So happy to prepare that. It was agreed at the earlier point in our meeting that would come back to the next meeting in the new year. Ka pai, karawi. Thank you. Those were the two that I just needed to seek further clarification.
So our next meeting's in March next year?
Is that correct?
Is that correct?
I thought it was February. I thought it was February.
Our first meeting back in February next year?
Governance?
I thought it was February.
Governance only?
Yes, about February.
Bear with me again. Is it the next meeting?
March. 2025.
Kia ora, through you, Chair, at this stage we're still finalising the 2025 calendar year for council and committee meetings. As soon as the information's available, I'll
Māori
have it to.
Committee's 5th of March. Is it?
Come on,
5th of March.
Yeah, there's none.
None before that.
Yeah, that's right.
So will we have all of those notes and updates before 5th of March?
Aside from the water security, water storage, engagement strategy piece of work that will come to the next committee meeting.
Oh, good. Okay.
Can we get all those dates put into our calendars?
Yeah.
Please?
Yes, please.
Thank you. Yes, yes.
And also a reminder to send out a reminder that we start at 10 o'clock. A reminder notice.
So, yeah, so let's just do that one. So, for decades, we have always met 1 hour prior to the official start of the meeting to have informal discussions as mana whenua. I would hope after decades you don't need to be reminded. But if you do, we'll send out an email that reminds us that we meet as what has become the practice and custom for the last couple of decades, that we come together 1 hour before the start of our hui. Whether it starts at 10, 11, 12 is immaterial. If it's 1 hour prior to the start of that hui, we come together as mana whenua to do what we've always done, to discuss the agenda and any matters of minor items that we wish to add. So we give ourselves a heads up. Ka pai?
I think the issue there was his email address, because I got the reminder about the 10 o'clock. So
our operations don't always include that extra hour, because it's not their hour, it's our hour. It's not their official meeting, it's our.
It's our meeting, first hour. I come at 9. I was keen.
With the meeting before you.
Waiting for someone to come through the door. Then come Henry.
So I'll take that on as
Oh,
chair and
Barbara,
co-chair, that will make sure that
been
you
there for a long
guys
time.
know, you know, and reminded. Oh, well. Tamahi kia koutou katoa, mai ia kokona o te rohe. Just going to hand it over to Api to close us off, please.
Just before we close, I suppose just wish everyone a Merry Christmas, because we're not going to see everyone. So, fingers crossed you all have a good break and good holiday and recharge your batteries for those that return next year. So just a big mahi out to everyone. And I suppose our whānau V's or our mahi for everyone that participates in the sui. Mauri ora.
Mauri ora.
Thank you.
O ka te tātou, mihi ana ki a koe, Katarina, kua kia manangi a tātou tēnei hui tēnei rā, Mike, kōrua tahi, tātou me ngā kōrero kua haria ki te tepu i te rangi nei. Me te tautoki ngā mihi o te krihi mete, me te tauhau ki a tātou, kua kei te timatatanga o noema tonu mātou i tēnei wā, ei kua nei ka tae mai te krihi mete. Hoeno, kia kaha i a tātou mahi katoa, ne? E nui ngā mahi kei mui a tātou. Kaini hera mai, marae mai, hapu mai, iwi mai. Nō reira, tā tātou nei himene, hei whakakapi.
Karia mai.
Kāria mai, and then, anei te karakia, kei tō kāri. Whakaria mai, tōri mea, ia, tau ngā manakitanga te mea ngaro, ki runga ki tēnā o tātou. Ka mahea te hua mā kihi kihi, kia toi te kupu, toi te mana, toi te aroha, toi te reo Māori, kia tūturu, whakamaua, kia tīnā, tīnā haumie, hui he, tāi. Kia ora.
Thank you, Chair.
Yep, Merry Christmas, everyone.
Merry Christmas.